This program is recorded on Monday, January 20th, in the year of our Lord, 2014. The opinions expressed by the participants in the following program do not necessarily represent that of this station or its management. From the John DeVita Recording Studio, located in an undisclosed and clandestine location on the great northwest side of our fair city of Chicago, we once again are pleased to be presenting yet another edition of our monthly roundtable panel discussion show, Meet the Chicago Historians. Now here's the guy who started it all, John DeVita.
From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS on Monday, January the 20th, the year 2014. Today's panel will be talking about movies, about Chicago and those filmed here. So sit back and enjoy Meet the Chicago Historians. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Richard Lang.
Now, here is our panel moderator, Jack Red Ryan.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello, neutral time, everyone. We don't want to say what it is, or what you said. We're pre-recorded, and it's a gray day. It's warm, midwinter. We're over the hump now. This is January 20th, so next thing you know, it'll be Super Bowl. Then before you know it, it'll be pitchers and catchers reporting. So keep your spirits up. Keep your spirits up. We had winters like this before, haven't we? Anyone remember any winters like this?
Oh, yeah. Go back a few years, yeah.
Al Opitz, you remember any winters like
working on it. Huh? I remember working in it.
79.
Bill, you worked in it out in the cold weather ever?
Oh, yeah. Call back 79, shoveling.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Remember the winter of 67?
I remember the demise of the mayor at that time, yes.
It was a lot colder when most of us grew up, but unfortunately that was during the Ice Age.
Yeah.
I remember the great blizzard back in '84. We were leading a wagon train across Nebraska.
Whoa.
Well, identify yourselves now, Tom McKenney. What's your worst winter? Do you remember? This one?
The winter of 67, I believe, when we had that huge snowfall. It was a week before my brother got married.
I had my...
Nothing stopped that? You couldn't stop it at all?
Yeah, that's what I say. When people tell me they're getting married, I say, nobody warned me.
I was scheduled to take the police exam that Saturday, and I said to my dad, how am I going to get there? It was at Wells High School, about 1600 North Ashland. The city's buried, he says. Well, sure enough, I got the card later. So he was right. At least that was one time the old man was right, you know. So, Jeanette, think of a good winter or a bad winter.
I can think of it. It is about that same winter. I worked at a place off of Division in Cicero, and I live at North in Cicero area. And I was one of those dedicated workers, you know, working part-time, and I had to get over there, and, well, you end up walking that distance to find out it was closed. So, you know, how do you not forget that?
Well, I was working at Teletype Corporation in 67, and really didn't have any inkling that it was going to snow that badly, so by the time we got out, we were pretty well snowed in. And I made it home. I lost a generator or alternator at the time, so I was able to drive over to the gas station, dropped it off at the gas station, walked the 2 blocks to my apartment, and watched everybody else shovel snow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
Don, how about you?
67. That was a terrible year. I was working out of 1121 South State Street, and I lived right by Jeanette at North and Cicero, and That was a long ride. I don't know how I even got down. I never should have gone, but I did. And there was nothing to do anyway. I mean, you were trapped.
Now,
Once
this
you
is-
got there,
Yeah.
you were trapped.
Don Harrigan, our guest star today. You've been here before, once, right? Once
Yes,
before?
once.
And you retired from the police department, sergeant in organized crime unit.
Yes,
Correct?
right, correct.
Welcome back.
Thanks a
What
lot.
took you so long?
I don't know.
He lost his way.
You're welcome all the time.
It was,
Yeah,
it was snowed
by
in.
the way.
You know, again, bringing up that 67 winter, if I remember correctly, there were very few snowblowers then.
You are right.
I mean, now almost everybody's got them. But in
Right.
those days, I know nobody on my block had any. I remember that. So
We had a snowblower. I remember 67 because it was my freshman year at DePaul, and actually everything was at a standstill, so there was no going to college that day. But we had completed our final exams. My recollection is there was nothing really important that I needed to go to class for because all the final exams had been completed for the semester. But my dad had bought a snowblower, and we had a grocery business in the Hawthorne section of Cicero. And so I remember my dad and I in the morning, plowing out the sidewalk and the driveway. And my dad opened our grocery store, which was just loaded with people because there was a Jewel a few blocks away from us, and the manager of the Jewel was stuck at his home somewhere out in DuPage County. He was the only one who had the keys to the front door. They could not get in. So though some of the employees showed up for work, those that lived in the neighborhood, they couldn't open the Jewel. So there were all these trucking companies along Laramie and along Cicero Avenue, and all these guys had not eaten since the night before. They'd been snowed in. They found our store, and I remember all these truck drivers lined up in our store. They were grabbing snowballs and Hostess cupcakes off the rack, eating them. They were honest enough when they finally made their turn up to the checkout. They would put the wrappers down on the counter and say, "Be sure and chart." My mom couldn't get over that. I mean, they could have just stuffed them in their pocket. No one would have known, but they were honest. But my dad had just stockpiled meat. He'd gotten extra milk, everything, and naturally all of that went. It was just unbelievable. Our store, you couldn't move in our store.
This was in Cicero, John?
In Cicero in '67.
Oh, that's unbelievable.
I remember-
That happened to-
in certain areas of the city, they were a lot more. They had a lot more ingenuity. They didn't wait for the owner to open the store. They just they just opened it up themselves
This
and
was
helped
a-
themselves.
This was a
they
more
were very-
law-abiding
right,
community.
Right. They were very resourceful.
You know, with you saying that, it brings back a memory for me too. And Don could verify that I had a store in the neighborhood. I had a grocery store, and something not that winter, but some winters. You know, when the snow was really coming down and they couldn't get to the store. We were right on a residential street. We literally ended up making sandwiches and, just like saying, take the milk, take the bread, take that. And that ended up to be some of my best customers and from blocks around. I mean, where normally they wouldn't come to us, for that. But the winter of '67, my husband being in construction, he was off many months in the winter. And he decided to go into the snow plowing business. And no experience, anything like that. And wouldn't you know, the first week that he was on his way to start promoting himself, we had that blizzard. He was gone literally for 3 solid days, plowing,
Sure.
coming home for an hour maybe to change his boots or that. And in those 3 days, he made enough to, get through a couple months of no income. And right after that, it all thawed, went away, and you never knew it's ever snowed again. So that was our first experience.
That was the interesting thing about '67 is that the snow came down at one time, and then within a few days there was a thaw, and a week later
And
I
we
think
were out of
most of it was
business.
gone.
Wasn't there a
So-
second minor fall before it
Yes,
thawed,
the
though?
14th and then the 20th. There was another
Oh
one.
yeah, but I'm saying the main one that
Yeah,
hit.
yeah, but I mean, there was another.
It wasn't
Yeah.
like '79.
Only
In
13
'79,
inches or
it
something.
started snowing on New Year's Eve, and it continued snowing for the next 2 months.
I was the lieutenant of 26 at Grand and Walcott, and we found every fire hydrant in that district and beyond under maybe 6 foot of snow. And the guys never forgot from then on where the hydrants were, because it was, it was sticking a pole in the ground. I think it's here.
It was kind of tough on the dogs then, huh?
Oh yeah, the dogs stayed right in the firehouse. The dogs were very, very smart, not like the firemen.
Now, was there, like, now you'll see, there'll be like the red and white stick. They'll put like an antenna.
They didn't have
Chicago
those in
doesn't have
67.
that.
No.
The
suburbs do.
do.
Yeah.
And in fact, I brought a couple from the suburbs just to show. And the brass
You're mentioning
just turned their nose up at that.
Not our idea.
You're mentioning the snowstorms of 1967 and 1979, but for those of us who are a little bit younger that are listening to the show, we had a major snowstorm just after New Year's Day in 1999. I think it was around January 2nd, January 3rd. Closed the schools. What happened to me is we were just relaunching WRHS television at the time. And so one of our first things was we sent everybody out and we covered the story, and we had a newscast called Snow Emergency 1999. And then, of course, more recently, 2 years ago, February 1st or 2nd, 2012, we had that huge snowstorm. And then, of course, this year, 2014, we've had that polar vortex where it was bitter cold.
The one in February.
Winter isn't over here yet.
That was the one that was such a problem on Lakeshore Drive, right?
That's
All the cars, everybody
right.
was stuck on Lakeshore Drive.
There was a
Groundhog Day blizzard, yeah.
There was a television awards ceremony, documentary awards, and I want to say it was Dick Kay. Maybe it wasn't, but he was accepting an award for a documentary on the snowstorm, and Jane Byrne happened to be there as an honored guest. And I remember he said to her, well, Mayor, if it wasn't for the snowstorm, neither one of us would be here today.
That's the interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because of the 67 storm being over so quickly, it never became a political issue. Nobody. I don't know that the city responded all that superbly to it, but it didn't last long enough to become a political issue. But in 79, it kept snowing, and every few days there'd be another 3 or 4 inches, then another 4 or 5 inches.
Plus,
and people were getting angrier and angrier.
And Blandick was getting very poor information.
And his way of dealing with
Right.
it, he had this bland,
Everything's
totally.
fine, he said.
Yeah.
laid back.
My mother told me
all the-
that you look after today and tomorrow will take care of itself.
I remember he said that all of the schools' parking lots are snow-free, and residents can park there.
And then they would.
And so then they went there. and they
TV
were-
cameras
they
would go out and
they
show them
weren't,
all
right.
snowed in.
And a number of CTALs were converted to Express, so they would be bypassing several stations, usually in the south and west side, and that contributed to this very bad image, too.
I remember, too, was the fact that I was shoveling the snow off my garage roof. I didn't need a ladder to get on a garage roof. I just walked up the snowbank.
Oh.
Oh, the kids loved that. The grade school kids, they loved that snowstorm and the drifts. Drifts on my house went
The
right
adventure.
up to the second floor windows, and the kids were going
Well,
in
I-
and out.
well, I was going
I just
to-
wanted to mention that. God bless Jane Byrne.
Well,
God bless Jane Byrne.
you were talking about going to DePaul. I was going to Wilson Junior College at the time, and naturally I didn't show up for class, but as I remember correctly, I didn't show up for class the day before either, so it really didn't make too much difference.
I remember on the radio listening to the radio, and this fellow was calling from his home. Their correspondent was calling from home. He says, I tried to get to the station. He says, I went down to the CTA stop, and they announced over the loudspeaker that the CTA, the trains were not running. He says, that was like saying that the sun is not going to come up today. He says, I've lived in this city all my life. I don't remember a day when the CTA wasn't running.
Right.
Well, it wasn't running the other day either too well.
Not too well. Well, Metro had the big problems, right?
Yeah,
In my case, like Tom, I had been going to school, but I took this semester off, so I was working part-time at Central Steel and Wire, 51st in California there. And what we did, I had my 1961 Ford Falcon Futura that I bought from Courtesy Motors. What we did was he scooped out the front. We lived on Damon Avenue.
Did you have Jim Moran's autograph on the hubcap? Or
Joe Lesniak too. But anyway, so I did most of the the errands and everything for those. We never missed a day driving with it, and it did very well in the snow too. So.
I had a
Very. I remember pushing that car a great deal too. As a matter of fact, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but we pushed it from Evergreen Plaza at 95th and Western to your house
At 65th and
at 65th and Damon.
Yeah, well-
Is that true?
Well, that was my dad's car.
I think that was one of Jim Moran's
It ran-
taglines.
it
Buy
ran
your
in the
new
family.
courtesy reconditioned car and push it home.
Right, and it got great gas mileage.
Go for a Sunday push.
It didn't run at all, but it.
Well, that was my dad's car.
Oh.
One time we were over in the neighborhood. Matter of fact, oddly enough, I lived about a half block from the location where this happened, and the ball joint pops out of my car. Remember that? Around 64th and Sacramento.
Oh, yeah.
So what does Tom do? He lays in front of it puts his coat over his face like he was hit by the car or something.
We were
Didn't
in our
your-
we
didn't
were in
your
our
ball
teens.
joint fall
We were in
out,
our teens at
not
that
too long
time.
ago, Jack.
Yeah.
Your ball joint on your
Well, not
on
mine,
your
but-
leg.
Yeah.
Right.
Wasn't it after the 67 storm for a week or two afterward, when you would walk down a sidewalk, it'd be like walking along a World War I trench. The snow was so
Oh,
high,
so
maybe
high.
at chest level on either side of you.
Or cars stuck in just at zigzags in the middle of the street because guys couldn't. They were unable to move, and they would just leave their car wherever it was, and you'd have these cars at these zigzag angles on the side
So
streets.
plows couldn't get through.
Yeah, right.
Well, what was funny about it, had my apartment, and my brother shows up, and he was stationed at Great Lakes. And he said, "We didn't have any snow out there."
So it was new to him,
It
huh?
wasn't that
So
far.
he comes, the streets were plowed at the time, and he pulls up, and he said, "I don't understand what the problem was."
Well, Don, Jenny, and I, who is Don's wife, we reminisce. We all went to the same grammar schools and same high schools and so on. But at North Avenue in Cicero, they had the car barns where all the streetcars and then the buses were repaired. And we always talk about, our snow was so much higher. But as we think about it, we were also so much shorter, But it always seemed like it was way over our head because you never got a ride to school. You never got picked up. And you went to everything, rain or shine, So
I
so we
remember-
had the highest snow.
I remember in the 50s, I went to high school, and it used to take me 2 hours to get to school.
Yeah.
And at that time, you used to have, you had to be on time. You had darty slips and all this other stuff. They just said, "Go to class."
Yeah.
I don't remember the big snow having any great. It wasn't very frigid during or after
No.
that period, was it?
No.
No,
it
in
wasn't like
'67 it wasn't that
No.
cold.
We didn't get
no.
socked like that.
It
With
was
it.
No,
just
no.
snow.
That was one in middle 60s. No, what was that? It was cold. We had about 90 days there. Didn't go above freezing.
I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I worked
In
that, too.
'82 and 83, perhaps, around like
And late
February.
70s, too.
We had a very bad
77
sub-zero
around
cold
this
snap.
was before that. It was in the late 70s because
1970.
In the early '80s.
Early '80s, yeah.
When we had a new fire
Yeah, that was- I was working-
commissioner that took
We had
off
a
to
long bout of
California,
sub-zero
and then
weather.
half
Oh, yeah.
the city burned down.
Well, you just had your commissioner leave the city now.
That was the mayor.
The mayor,
That too.
the mayor left the
They
city.
both left together.
But that was like '82.
Yeah.
83
Yeah.
is
I think it was
we
83.
really had
like
a bad
January, February of '83.
Yeah.
I was working for the city at the time, so this was cold weather before that in the late 70s, and it got down well below zero. And I was working outside at the time. And you were able to dress for it, so it wasn't too bad. But we had a substation on the property, and the insulators froze over. So at night you go and see all this gigantic flash, and it looked like lightning in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. And it had automatic reset, so you had flash, few seconds, and another flash. And
It was tough for us to dress in that weather
Yeah.
too. The ice kept layering up on our coats and that.
well, our plant froze up for that was about 30 days or 60 days there, and of course they blamed all the workers for the problem, and they fired a whole bunch of us.
No kidding. For something like that?
don't ask. You know, there's no logic in management.
We the union, Local 2 gave an award that year to the water distribution for keeping the hydrants going. You know, it was the first time that ever happened. They had a special detail going on around, and
the city had
the
a
city,
special, really?
yes,
Wow.
yeah, because of things that happened before.
Hey.
You know, somebody woke up, but that was the last time that ever happened too.
Oh, you gave him an award. What about me? I'm gonna go shut off all the open hydrants in the hot weather in the district, and they get a
Not
key and you drive
you
around.
poor guy.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. Isn't
I
it?
bet you still got that key,
You go by,
that hydrant wrench.
take
huh?
your shoes off. Well,
Well, when I was working for the water department, I was in the control room for the pumping. They have what they call low lift pumps that distribute the water out to the pumping stations. And I have the record for the most water pumped any particular one day. I had 8 of the 9 pumps in. And I forgot what the amount was, but all the hydrants in the neighborhood were open. So
That's in the summer you're talking about.
yeah, in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
I remember
You never had to deal with
one
snow.
summer I
No,
just
no,
got on the job about a year, and we had I was working a squad with another guy, and we got a call of around Ohio and Hamlin, which was kind of like a Italian
Mix.
neighborhood
Yeah,
over
yeah.
there. And if the fire hydrant's open and the kids are running around, they got a board and the water's going. Now, if there's a fire, there won't be any water pressure. So we go over there, and the street is flooded, and there's some few guys in T-shirts and stuff, and little kids. And I said, "Hey, will you turn that thing off, will you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So, okay. So they turned it off, and we left. 2 minutes later, there's our fire. I said, "What the?" Okay, so we go back again, and we catch this guy with a wrench, and he's the guy that's opening
Turning
it,
him
you know.
on. Yeah.
I said, "All right, now close it." He wouldn't close it. So I said, so this was my first arrest. So all right, you're going to jail. And all this stuff. We go to court, and a month later, and it was in July, I think, and it was 95 degrees, and I don't blame him for turning on the hydrant, you know. But so I go to court with this guy, and I was working. It was 4 to 12, I think. So at that time, we didn't get any money for going to court. So it was on the day shift, so I had to go to court on my own time in Fillmore. And there was a court over there, and I saw lawyers being called and cases being called, and I'm sitting there. It's 11:30 in the morning now, and I'm tired. I want to go home, and they wouldn't call this case. Finally, it was the last case called, and we go up there, and he's, "All right, officer, what happened?" Blah blah blah. And I tell him, "Well, this guy turned on the hydrant, and it was a fire hazard." And I said, "What day was that?" "July 20th. I remember that day was hot. Discharge." So what? That's the last time I ever
Interfered with that.
locked anybody up, or I avoided it. I wouldn't answer the call, really.
Well, one of the things the fire department did was pretty smart. They had caps with slits on it, and they went out and they put on some of the hydrants so they wouldn't have a full flush.
Yeah, those were good. Those were good, and they're
Good
still
idea.
used.
Yeah.
They're still used.
Are they?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, with some nitwit came up with the idea of magnetic caps and
Oh, yeah.
bullet caps, and there's 3 or 4 different types, and each one of them would take a different wrench to turn it on and to open it. And by the time the poor hydrant guy, you know, got all of this stuff, he had about 400 pounds of
Carrying a
of
set of
iron
wrenches
to
in you.
carry, and you just didn't know which was which. And you know what? That still didn't stop them. The minute they put this fancy thing on that cost probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to do. Somebody made out on it.
Friends of the mayor.
One of the boys in the neighborhood, they figured it out right
out,
away.
Yankee
They weren't
ingenuity.
kidding them.
Yeah. Well, we lived in a Mulberry type of neighborhood. Again, back to Don. I think he
Yeah.
could verify it. We all knew each other, and everybody's front porch was where you hung out, and all of that. Anyway, the fire hydrant was right on our corner, and we were proud of that. The fire hydrant was on right in front of our house. Well, that fire hydrant used to flood our basement all summer. So finally, my parents just raised whatever they had in the basement, and they would say, well, the fire hydrant will be on at least 3-4 months, so, we won't be using the basement and we won't be storing anything. Now, I wonder today if anybody'd be that cooperative.
No.
But we just had so much fun with that
right.
fire hydrant, right? And
right.
never were in the house. We were always outside,
Right.
Well, one of the things to throw with those hydrants that you're talking about was that you used to have a fire across the street from a hydrant in the suburb, and they couldn't turn on the hydrant, so the fight the fire in the suburb. So it's one of those problems. It's supposed to be cooperative. I don't know.
Well, I'm
Where,
sure
in
anything we
Chicago?
did was dangerous.
On the
Well, you go up to Harlem Avenue and stuff like that, where you got
usually Elmwood Park and Cicero and
Yeah, all those
all
places.
along there. They would have our equipment and we would have theirs.
Yeah, but there were some complaints for a while there that they didn't have the wrench to open the hydrant up.
Well, there was always complaints. No, some copper probably took it in his car. Had a swimming pool to fill up.
I was walking the foot patrol uniform on 63rd and Kedzie, 63rd and Troy. A little, how should you put this? Little Mid-Eastern immigrant kid walks right up. I'm standing right there. He's going to turn the hydrant on. I said, hey, you got to have more respect than that. Of course, I confiscated the wrench.
That was his job.
Yeah, well, right in front of you.
Well, the coppers would turn on the hydrants on streets where there was they were drag racing.
Oh, yeah.
And to stop that,
yeah, bad.
and so they had hydrant wrenches with them, or they'd call us and borrow one for a while, and that. But that was a normal everyday occurrence in certain areas.
I first went downtown to blow the whistle downtown. Clark and Adams where had construction, where the new where the Kluzinski building was built there. All this, the summer I was there was all this. Infrastructure work going on. Well, it was sand. It was blowing all over. I call everybody. The contractor said, no, it's the government. Government says the city. So what I did was one afternoon, I borrowed a wrench, walked down the block, before rush hour, opened up and let the street flood a little bit. Cut it down. So sometimes you have to take.
You have to be a hero.
Yeah.
Well, in September, October, we would have that would be hydrant testing time. And depending, of course, on the neighborhood, and I was never in a nice neighborhood, but you would the strangest things you would get out of those hydrants, not just cans, but you'd get all kinds of strange different things, and that you could collect dolls and different things, and it was. That time that you'd collect them, and then of course now with the price of brass and metals and with the way the economy is, they tell me, a guy was just telling me the other day that they're stealing the from the hydrants. They're stealing not the caps.
The threads.
They are stealing the caps too. That is, but they're stealing the threads because the threads are brass.
Yeah.
And the price of brass is up, so they're actually taking the threads off of them, and the water department is having a terrible time trying to keep up now with repairing them. It's not a good idea.
I can't believe that with the economy the way it is. It's so wonderful. I mean, I can't believe that anybody would need money for anything.
Yeah, we got this surging recovery.
Yeah.
44, President.
44 months of consecutive nothing.
Well, this is the first time that
19.
the median income is lower during the recovery than it was during the recession.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucky us. Huh? Anyway.
One more little hydrant story before we go to a break, but Tom knows the big station at 50.
This is the fire plug hour, ladies and gentlemen.
Fire
In
plug.
case
They used to
you're
call me that. Joe Ferguson nicknamed me that.
That's right.
Joe Fire Plug. But anyway, you'll drive along 51st Street, and all of a sudden, the viaducts underneath is flooded. How did it get that way? Well, you have to go down the street a little bit, down Federal. There's a hydrant open 2 blocks away or something. But am I right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but it's,
Well, in that case, we ended up swimming in those viaducts.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Kenton
Never
and the
sick a
rail,
day in our
yeah,
life, were we?
weren't there.
You used to come up from under the water and your hair was full of cigarettes
Actually,
and
swim.
weeds. And
okay, why
I
is
can't
that?
believe it.
No, that's right.
But we did understand that there was a danger, though. You know, when the police come by.
There's a fundraiser now, and I don't know too much about it. Maybe John does. With this painting fire hydrants, they're what are they? They're made out of plastic or whatever they are, and they're going to auction them off soon. Maybe they have already, and the money goes to the 100 Club.
Do you know about that, John?
Do you know anything about that, John?
I saw an article in the Sounder. I just got my copy of the Sounder from the Union just last week, and there's a big article in the about that, Bill. After the break, when you guys go back part 2, I'll run upstairs. I'll get it and I'll show it to you.
Yeah, they're made out of
Plastic or something like that.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
fundraiser.
fiberglass or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
And I see them around a lot. It's a project to raise money for the 100 Club.
Right.
And I'm kind of proud of it. My nephew is whatever the hell he is, president of the 100 Club. He's one of the heads of it, and it was his idea to do something like that.
The same thing when Chicago got rid of all the fireboxes that were on the street. A lot of them were given to the 511 Club, and we were selling them, selling to raise money for the 511 Club canteen service.
Yeah.
Not only for the canteen service, but also for the welfare fund. So, because when a fireman gets injured, we send a basket of fruit or a donation to the fireman for him to enjoy while he's recovering. So we sold a lot of fireboxes, and now they're selling the hydrants now.
Yeah.
And right after the break, I'll go upstairs. I'll get that copy, Bill, and I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Well, let me close out on my fire hydrant story. I was in the 2nd District when it was still at 48th and Wabash. I got a call to turn the hydrant off. Most of the cars did have keys in the trunk, and they asked, 206, you got a fire hydrant key? Yes, I do. Okay. I forget what the address was, but I pull up, the hydrant's going. So I opened the trunk to get the fire hydrant key out. As I was reaching for the key, one of the children in the area reached in, snatched the key, and off he went. And I tell you, this kid was fast, because I didn't even think about it. And I was still in good shape at the time. I didn't even think about running after him.
Oh, my God.
So about 15 minutes later, they said, 206, what's the status on I said, no, I don't have a key anymore.
And they're not light either.
No, they're not. I think way about
And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more exciting fire plug stories after these messages.
Official.
It's the official break. Now for a brief
Hey, friends. Do you need an awning over your front, side, or back door? Or your windows? How about a canopy for your carport? Or a patio cover over your patio so you can enjoy being outside in case of rain in the warm weather? All you have to do is call Awnings and More, and Raphael Bogus will drive over, measure up whatever you need, and go from there. You can call Awnings and More at 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. So if you need awnings for your windows or doors, call Raphael Bogus at Awnings and More, and the number once again is area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Now, Raphael also installs hand railings for your front, side, or back steps. You must be safe when you go up and down the steps, especially in bad weather like we are experiencing right now. So for awnings and handrails, call Raphael at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Awnings and More. Give them a call today.
Edition of Meet the Chicago Historians program. Jack?
Rich? How's everything going? Are you all into golfing yet this year? Or you're the golfer, aren't you?
Oh, no, not at all.
No? See those guys out with the
expensive.
orange ball whacking it around like in the... No?
Orange balls versus the white snow.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the yellow snow, the white
Charlie
snow.
Finley wanted to make baseballs orange, as I recall.
remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for
Well, one
winter
little
sport.
thing more, we're talking about weather. I never remember a situation where we're colder in Chicago than we were at the South Pole. Than it was at the South. Do you ever remember a situation like that? I mean,
No,
it seemed
That's
cold.
what happened this year.
Yeah.
Occasionally we're colder than Alaska, but the South Pole situation.
Well, that's
is
a new
unique.
terminology sprung up, the polar vortex.
Yeah, what's
Do they have a ward committeeman for the South Pole? I don't know if they've
They're all
organized.
there right now.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it,
Temperatures. You're talking about different temperatures. In the late 80s, we hit the coldest temperature ever on record in Chicago and the coldest wind chill. But what happened now is we'll never hit that coldest wind chill probably ever again because they changed the wind chill
They did.
scale.
The
It used to be
calibration.
based on water, now it's based on skin. So the numbers now, when they say it's 47 below, it would have been like 50 or 60 or 70 70 on the old scale.
You're right. You're absolutely
we used to
right.
have wind chill donuts even.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
We would know about that, right?
That was Jack Ryan that made that comment. For those of you keeping score.
Isn't Chicago's
Jack
record
Ryan.
cold 27 below?
And I
apart
think
from
the
wind chill?
record for the
In
like
85, 84, 85. I think.
something like
remember
that.
it.
I think it was
I
like
worked that
negative
night.
87 with the wind chill. But
That's
now,
right.
if you did the new scale, it wouldn't be that
Maybe not.
dramatic sounding.
60 below, yeah.
Yeah.
I worked that night, and I was there the day Babe Ruth pointed.
I
Be thrown in
myself,
the position.
You were on call when Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over the lantern, and
Well, Jeanette, your father was a veterinarian, right?
yes. Yes.
Do you ever have to take care of any cows or?
Oh,
livestock?
everything. Oh gosh, yeah. We I could do a show for you on that.
Well, let's do one day.
We were with Barnum and Bailey Circus
Oh.
and WLS Barn Dance. Yes, sir. And yes, we had one hospital that was for a large animal, like just horses and cow and everything. And then we stemmed from Minnesota, so we had many accounts through that were nothing but farms and things like that. Very
And
interesting.
that was the warmest place to be, is right in the barn,
right in the barn.
right
Yeah.
by the cows. And
But yeah.
Just don't light a match.
Cannon Falls,
Do I know what?
Cannon Falls, Minnesota. I got two good friends that they're from Cannon
I don't
Falls,
know
Minnesota.
it real good, but I know of
You've
it.
heard of it,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How about
I'm
Frostbite
from
Falls?
The,
Frostbite Falls.
Boundary Waters.
That's
you
that's
know,
Rocky
Ely,
and
Minnesota.
Bullwinkle.
Willow,
That's right.
Willow
You got to
River.
look at it this way. It was warmer in Alaska this year than it was down in
And so
Florida.
we just said, oh, even Florida. Okay.
Florida got pretty chilly.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and Alaska
polar
along the
vortex.
southeast coast was warmer than it was down there.
Well, you're talking about veterinarian. I had a friend of mine. He had a double major in college, veterinary science and taxidermy. Yeah, his slogan was, "Either way, you're getting the dog back."
Yeah, I actually majored in animal husbandry until they caught me
bet.
at it.
Oh,
Once again, there was Jack Ryan.
You're taking names, ladies and gentlemen, for future reference.
Taking names and kicking something. But before we get on to our movie stuff about Chicago, Don Harrion, are you working on another book, or you have another book out, or what's?
I got a couple out, but I'm fooling around with another one. So.
Yeah. You're going in another subject matter, or what do you mean?
No, police. It'd be police, and maybe police screw-ups.
Nah, they don't do that, do they?
On occasion.
No one would think that.
Yeah, no.
There's plenty of material
Many
there.
volumes.
This is going to be a book that you won't be able to lift.
Yeah, you heard that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Well, I always I always tell Dan, and excuse me, oh yes, what was the title of the first one?
Pay,
Pay-
quit, or die.
Die. Okay. I never read a book that it's a great book, but as I turned every page, I knew somebody on it. Isn't that awful? Because our neighborhood was like that too, you know. But and then you mention my dad's career, Don and all his friends and all our friends. They used to hang out at the hospital, and
Yeah.
literally it was their playground, wasn't it? I mean,
Where was
yeah.
that?
We were on North Avenue,
North.
4712 on West North Avenue.
Oh, yeah?
Keating
Yeah.
and North
Oh,
Avenue.
I know. Yeah, I used to work for Ted Lefebvre
Oh,
in Niles. Niles
okay.
and Bob Syrog in Skokie.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh,
all
yeah.
that- yes.
Yeah, I tried to get into vet school, and they wouldn't let me in because I wasn't a resident. And
Oh.
that residential thing followed me all through the fire department too.
Yeah, right, right.
Well, you got to remember, too, a veterinarian now has to have a better grade point average than an MD.
No, not just now. It was back
Yeah,
then
you
too.
go
That's
to school
interesting.
one
Yeah.
extra year, 9
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
because does an animal talk? I mean,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
analyze the story, 9 years.
You
he
had
went
to,
to
you
Ohio
had
State.
to be someone that was really into
Well, you had to like the
knowing
yeah.
and
point.
I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it was tough to diagnose.
Yeah.
You know.
And so
Well,
does this
I don't know
hurt?
if you remember my brother. Well, you know my brother,
Sonny?
but
Yeah.
my issue is to remember us always walking this collie dog from our house to the hospital, which was only a block and a half away, and that was Lassie. But we had to act like it was our dog. You know, we were afraid that it could be kidnapped
Is
or.
that right?
Uh-huh.
That was the Lassie?
That was Lassie. Yeah,
It was a male, right?
yes. Well, Lassie has many stand-ins. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But-
quite a few,
but-
yeah.
that was him, and he was appearing at the stadium with Sonia Henney when she was skating. And
Lassie got
that's
top
why
billing.
we had her. Yeah. yes. But yes, it was very interesting. Back to your book, Don. What inspired the second writing? I mean, you told so much in the first.
There was a lot of this got to do with a lot of murders
Uh-huh.
and mob killings and associates of
Who was connected and
mobsters.
everything.
Yeah, right.
Uh-huh.
And some people may look and see their name in there. You know,
Yes.
but an associate is a tricky name.
Mm-hmm.
If you're seen with Giancana and you're talking to him, our intelligence unit used to write that down and get your license number, and now you're an associate of organized crime, more or less, you know. But I did not specify that they were members of organized crime, right? Because that's not true. Maybe they were, I don't know. But an associate you can get away with. But so I knew a lot of them were with them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there was a guy at St. Valentine's Massacre. He was a associate, and they shot him anyway.
Doctor or dentist,
Yeah,
or whatever it was?
the buff, the guy that was just sort of a hanger-on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wannabe.
It was I think it was a dentist or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Don, and Don knows this. We had the guy that was in charge of the photo unit at the tracks was John Accardo,
Yeah, oh yeah.
and that was Tony Accardo's brother.
Yeah.
And every so often I get a call that it started out that the G would come in, the FBI would come in, and they'd want to talk to John. And John was really a nice guy.
Yeah.
Good family man. In fact, his kids went to school with my kids, and they would just embarrass the hell out of him, call him down and treat him like crap.
That was their modus operandi.
Yeah.
They would make waves over nothing.
Yeah, well, they had nothing else to do.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I finally got one of the bosses, and I said, no, you're not coming onto this track until you call me and let me know if you're going to do something like this. And then they did. They finally did, and I called John and tell him, you're going to get a visitor today. And then they'd come down to my office and do their thing.
Yeah.
And that. But here's a guy that was Tony Accardo's brother, and he was the nicest guy in the world.
And they all are.
Yeah, nicest guy in the
Very
world.
nice.
Nothing to do with the mob. He had nothing to do with the mob.
There was a little blurb on radio, I think it was yesterday, talking about Al Capone again, and how he was a family man and all this other stuff. But he said, don't be on the wrong side of him. That's all.
Well, our two senators, it was in the news a couple of days ago that our two senators from Illinois have proposed naming the headquarters building of the Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. I think explosives are now included.
Oh, yeah,
in that,
Elliot Ness.
For Elliot Ness, naming it the Elliot Ness ATF headquarters building.
Yeah, but what
And
was
so
Ness?
there's a big to-do now about
Nothing.
whether
There was
that
nothing.
essentially they're honoring him because of his movie image and
Yeah.
television
Yeah,
image.
You
that's
know
all.
what Elliot Ness was? Snuffy Smith called these guys revenuers. That's all he was. He
He was a team. He was not in every. A lot of people think he was FBI. He was a Treasury agent, and it's what today would be alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, perhaps. But they want to name the headquarters building in Washington in his honor.
Name it after Snuffy Smith.
That wouldn't look good on the plaque. I don't think.
They could also name it after Purvis.
Melvin Purvis.
He was
yeah.
FBI.
Another interesting.
Melvin
Yeah,
Purvis.
yeah, he was FBI.
Yeah, he was not that good of a shot, from what I heard.
Well, who killed Dillinger?
A whole bunch of guys.
No, one guy killed him.
Who?
Was it Purvis? Who got the first shot?
Oh,
I don't think
thought-
Purvis got.
I don't think it was. It was a Texas Ranger they brought in from
Not Frank Hammer.
Texas. Who?
Frank Hammer, the guy that got Bonnie and Clyde, was it?
No.
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 Hammer?
no.
Hammer.
No.
No, those, nowadays they couldn't do that anymore. That was just an ambush.
I happened to get lucky and work on Public Enemies, so that was all about John Dillinger.
I was just going to ask you that. Are you still doing
Yeah, once in a while.
legalizing what goes over the film?
Yeah,
or,
but there's you can tell them the way it should be, and it
They'll do it
doesn't
their own way.
coincide with the script or something. You know, like in the movie, I always brought up that I thought was a great movie was French Connection, and the movie, if as soon as you say that, it's about the car chase.
Right.
which
right.
took place on Lake
and
Street.
the car chase began because a hitman took a shot at Gene Hackman, who was a detective working on
Popeye Doyle.
There never was a shot at Gene Hackman or in real life or whatever.
Oh.
So if there was no shot, then he didn't chase him and complicate the car, and the car chase, so. And at the end of the movie, he kills an FBI guy. That didn't happen either. So all of it. And
Hollywood.
I know someone in New York that really worked on that.
If you want accuracy, you don't go to Hollywood.
No.
Well, in that
no.
movie, wasn't the guy that played Gene Hackman's boss the actual?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
He was the actual policeman.
Eddie Egan.
You're right.
Yeah. Egan and
His partner was in it. Sonny Grosso.
Sonny
Also-
Grosso,
yeah.
right? He turned into a producer in the movie.
You know, the best car chase was just on, and that was in both. In fact, two movies.
Bullet?
Bullet? Sure.
No. The Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah.
And then
They
the
wrecked
new
more
one
cars.
Very extended car
The
chase.
new
When
one
I see them, I think of
is the Blues Brothers 2000.
right,
Oh,
right.
my
Oh,
God.
my God!
Here I'm gonna do-
the you know they must have smashed up a 1,000 cars in that thing.
Yeah, they
God.
did.
My impersonation of a car chase in Chicago. 810 is the sergeant, 811 is the patrolman, patrolman's car. So here they go. 811 emergency. Go at 811. That's the dispatcher. We got a guy running from us. It's a blue Chevrolet. He's westbound on 63rd from Cicero. 810. Go at 810. Tell him to break off that chase. Isn't that the truth? Though? Am I exaggerating or what?
No, that's true.
Break it off.
But the next question would
No.
be, why are you chasing?
No, I know. I understand that.
You know, but they never had a we went through a red light or something. You're
Well,
going
you know-
80
No, but I
miles
mean,
an hour.
One day, the sergeant, when I was in Chicago Lawn, the sergeant says, break off that chase. What's he chasing them for, by the way? Oh, they just stuck up a place at Ford City.
Well, one of the reasons that you got all of those exciting car chases in movies is because they were trying to downplay the gunfire. They didn't want gun battles because of the hostility to firearms. So they decided that a substitute for gunfights between police officers and the bad guys would be high-speed car chases where they're crashing into one another. And that was a way of getting violence without having guns.
Well, you know, when I watch the Blues Brothers movie and I see that car chase, having been in, well, I retired after 34 years, but I was in major accident for 22 of those years. And you know what runs through my head? How you would put that down on paper, that report. Because every time I see another squad car crash into another squad car, I think, now, let me see. How would I word this?
Can't cover that.
And that's something that they never show in movies, is after something like that
paperwork.
happens, somebody's sitting at his desk for about 4 days trying to piece it together.
Yeah, Dirty Harry can kill three guys who are trying to hijack the plane or whatever, and he just goes away to lunch or whatever.
Yeah, no reports.
No.
Oh, he also used a 44 Magnum too.
The most powerful handgun in the world can blow your head clean off.
Oh, you saw the movie.
Do you feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
Punk, yeah.
Oh,
He's
you got
got it down pretty
You got to
good.
remember why they developed the 45 pistol, because you shoot a guy, it'll kick him back.
Stopping power.
Stopping power was great. You know, if a guy was coming at you, you shot him with a 45, he'd stop coming, go backwards.
That was why I understand a lot of the military, maybe even today, continue to carry the old A1 1911 45 automatic because it has the stopping power that the 9mm does not. Even the modern 9mm handgun doesn't have the stopping power.
The 9mm got a little less kick, I think, and it's deadly, but you got to be able to aim. You know, like anything else. You don't aim sideways like they do on the gang wars.
Yeah.
I tell people, I said, try to shoot a handgun that way sideways and see how accurate you are.
Yeah.
But it looks cool.
I like the way they got the laser sights now.
Oh, yeah.
It's gone.
Well,
What was the movie that you were in that I always tell you every time I turn on the set?
Gone with the
You
Wind.
were
Raw
no,
deal.
yeah, maybe. Were you
Well,
the
I
desk
know.
sergeant
Backcraft.
then? Or?
Oh, next to Raw Deal, I got blown up and.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he actually has done movies. But
Movie star.
now that
Yeah.
you brought up the word gun, I don't want to throw anybody off. What do all of us think of the new gun law or gun rule or
Don't
It's
leave the
useless.
house without it. That's
don't?
what
Is that? I mean,
Better
is,
to be caught with it than without it.
is it a
Damn
better
right.
story?
The
Don't
other
ever
thing-
Well, we were the
Without
only
it.
state in the union that didn't allow it. Every other state allowed concealed
Mm-hmm.
carry.
Well, the other catch on it is useless. The fact is that the gangs will still carry the guns no matter what the law says.
Right.
And the people who are honest turn them in, and that's the problem, you know.
Don't be honest.
Right, that's the catch.
I mean, come on. It's
Well, what I tell
No
people,
choice, is it?
because people, I mean, retired law enforcement, they enacted it's a nationwide bill. I forget, it's House Bill, whatever the number is, but they enacted that about, what was it,
8 or 10 years ago.
9 years ago, and it's nationwide. Retired Chicago police officers, if you're officially retired, and there are rules and regulations, meaning you have to be drawing a pension. You have to have a certain amount of years. I think it's 10 years and certain other requirements, and then you have to go and qualify once a year at the range. You can carry nationwide concealed carry.
Oh.
That's been in effect, and that's totally separate from the new concealed carry that citizens. What people ask me, knowing that I've carried a gun for over 40 years, they ask me about getting a concealed carry permit, and the first thing that I ask them is, "Are you willing to kill someone?" Because if the answer is no, then you shouldn't carry it.
No.
Because if you think you're going to carry it to threaten someone with it,
Doesn't work that way.
Right, it doesn't work. So first of all, when you get past that question, are you willing to kill someone? Then you go to all the other questions about, why do you want to carry it? How are you going to carry it? How are you going to be trained? Because it's absolutely useless if you're not trained properly.
Right.
With
Then
it.
there's that Hollywood thing about winging someone.
Winging him, yeah,
I'm going
winging
to shoot
him.
the gun out of his hand.
Well, that's what Gene Autry does. Why
Oh, I
can't
know.
I?
Yeah.
That's
I
Gene
was-
Autry. Yeah.
I was fascinated to read that Dwight Eisenhower, as President of the United States, surrounded by the Secret Service, who sworn to lay down their lives to protect him, never left the White House without a handgun in his pocket. Always carried a handgun. As President of the United States, carried a handgun.
Well, the other thing is the aldermen could carry guns.
No, yeah.
Yeah, well, they enacted that themselves, law enforcement officers, years ago.
And
They've all got stars.
Elected officials,
Some of these guys you can't even
gosh.
trust with a paper and pen, let alone
according, I don't know if it's been changed, but the Illinois statutes declared all elected officials, not only Chicago aldermen, but suburban village trustees, are conservators of the peace. And a conservator of the peace, a police officer is a conservator of the peace. It's a term you never hear except that it's in the statute book. And I think that is the tie-in that gives elected officials technically the right to carry a firearm. It gives them nominal police authority.
some of those guys.
Even without any training, correct? They don't.
I'm sure that part has probably been revised because
I
now
hope so.
now the requirements of police officers have to have extensive training in order to
Right.
carry a firearm. But that was the old catch was this term conservator of the peace.
Well, the other problem was this guy was a retired cop who shot a guy.
Oh,
in his
pardon me,
movie house.
panel. It's time for another break. You're listening to Meet the Chicago Historians, and we thank you for it. We'll be right back.
Well, friends, spring is just about 2 to 2.5 months away. And now is the time to think about your roof, siding, and gutters on your home. So be sure the roof, siding, and gutters are in good shape. You don't want mold or mildew in your attic or crawl space, or drip, drip, drip on the ceilings in your rooms, or have your walls damaged by a leaky gutter or bad siding. So don't have double expense. Sooner or later, you're going to have to get them repaired. So call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Mike Best will drive over in his shiny red truck with ladders on top and Best Brothers Roofing signs on the door. Mike will look over your roof, siding, and gutters and give you an estimate and go from there. So once again, don't have double expense. Call Best Brothers Roofing for a free estimate at 630-616-1359. That's Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at 630-616-1359. Call today, and the number one more time is 630-616-1359.
Now, back to our show.
Once again, in case you don't remember,
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna review a little Musketeer roll call here. To my right is
Tom McKenna, retired Chicago Police.
Al Opitz retired, and
oh, come on, you're a chemical genius. Come on. Protein
I was a chemical engineer at one time.
Yeah. What railroad?
Can you want to? Can we get
Southern.
a crystal meth lab going?
Oh, gee.
Is that in the realm of possibility?
Yeah, right.
Next, our special guest.
Don Harrion, retired Chicago police and county.
We're in the county too.
Yeah.
8 years with the county.
Your announcer, Rich Lang.
Harry Callahan, Inspector, San Francisco PD.
Oh boy.
John Escacholco, good to be with you today.
Jeanette Frontier, formerly with WJJG.
And Bill Kugelman, retired Chicago Fire Department.
And Kevin.
And Kevin Zaflick, station manager of Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich.
The
at
guy
Ridgewood High School.
You wouldn't be hearing us at all if it wasn't for him. We're just talking to ourselves here.
Well,
We don't even
now
hear, hear ourselves.
Now we know who to blame.
Kevin, hey Kevin, pay attention there, Kevin. Where did the name Jack come from?
It's a syndicated format from SparkNet Communications, and originally it started in Canada, so it was the Canadian Jack flag. So everything was Canada-based.
Oh, the Jack.
And then the first one, we were the first Jack FM on this side of the Mississippi River. There was one on the West Coast, and then a whole bunch of them sprung up. CBS Radio picked up on it. For about 4 years, WJMK 104.3 was a Jack FM affiliate. So we all play the same type of music. Howard Kogan's the voice of the station. Ken Darris is our local voice of the station, along with students at Ridgewood High School.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Very good. What did he say?
I have no idea. I'm sorry I asked.
I think he said, I don't know
Oh, that
Jack
was
about
Are you
it.
associated with CBS yet?
No, we never were. The closest thing is Don Poikis, who worked for WGMK, gave us a lot of promotional materials at one point in time, but we have no relation. So when they switched formats, they're like, "Oh, you're the ones that got Dick Biondi off the air." No, we had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
This
The
is the
reason I
Columbia Broadcasting
The
System.
reason I ask is my grandson works for CBS in New York.
Oh, what does he do there?
He, I don't know.
The clock.
Television, something, whatever he does.
You should find out what shows or what events he works with.
I know he does the weekend news.
For the national CBS network or for WCBS in New York?
No, national, I
Oh,
guess.
wow. Very
I
interesting.
guess. I don't know. Cost me a lot of money to put him through USC. That's all I know. Thank God he's got a job. That's all. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do my impersonation too here. Here is Andy Devine. Hey, Wild Bill, wait for me.
That's pretty good.
Very good.
He will be on tonight. They're showing The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance is going to be on.
Good movie. Yeah.
Great picture.
Yeah.
That's more than just a Western. A lot more to it. Like
Great movie, yeah.
Is that John Ford? Yeah. I think so, yeah.
That's right. I ain't got none of that jurisdiction.
Yeah. Okay, gang. Let's get on to our subject, which ought to be a lot of fun. Movies about Chicago and movies made in Chicago. Where do you want to start? Any particular picture recently, or The Natural was on yesterday or two days ago, and it has quite a bit to do with Chicago, although it wasn't filmed here.
Thought it was interesting that they, Wrigley Field figures prominently in the movie, but obviously they didn't film it.
That was War Memorial Stadium in Buffalo.
But you notice they did put vines. I noticed they did put vines on the walls of the outfield. I guess they knew that Wrigley Field was famous for its vines. So if you
Yeah.
look in the natural, I've seen that movie many times, but the first time I've ever noticed that they decorated the outfield wall with vines to suggest Wrigley Field, even though the ballpark doesn't really look like Wrigley Field.
Didn't get them till like 1938 or something like that. That was Bill Veck's idea.
Well,
His father was president.
This
of
is supposed to be
Cubs.
39
I
the
know.
season
Yeah.
that
And there
since
were
they
lights in
played.
the park long before Wrigley had them. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, he knocks out the light standard. So.
Yeah.
The movie that got to me was North Side 777.
Very good.
Oh, that's a great
film.
Not
Yeah,
only a
the
great
earliest.
story, you
Yeah.
could it was written in a way where you were just involved with it. You didn't
Yeah,
want
Was filmed here?
you didn't
All filmed
definitely
in Illinois, down
showed so much of Chicago.
Very
of course,
realistic.
the mother. The gist is the mother trying to get him out of jail and pay for the bills and the crime he
true
didn't
story,
commit.
too.
Right, it is true. I believe it was played by Thelma Ritter. Was she the
Stewart
one? And Jimmy Stewart.
No, it's not Thelma Ritter.
It wasn't.
No, it's not Thelma Ritter. But the lady that
wait,
plays his
it'll-
mother, the woman
it'll
who plays the
come-
mother
yeah.
of the. No, it's not Thelma Ritter, but
The
it's
one
it's
who
someone very much like
scrubbed
Thelma Ritter.
Yeah.
It was
Okay,
it was really
I
great.
am
It was
but I
talk about-
thought that was great.
Beck of the Yards neighborhood, how a tough neighborhood it is down there. They call it Beck of the Stockyards, which no one.
I like to watch these movies that they say are Chicago movies, but if you really watch them, all you got to do is look in the street scenes. And if they're
we're talking about-
we were just talking about hydrants.
You might see a palm tree. Yeah.
Hydrants.
mountain.
Chicago is the only
Well, the good-
one that has a hydrant like it is. And if you got a street scene that says Chicago and it doesn't have that Chicago hydrant, then it ain't Chicago.
A good example, we talked about the Blues Brothers. The original Blues Brothers was filmed in Chicago, and the Blues Brothers 2, I think it's called, was filmed
2000.
in Toronto.
Yeah, right.
And you can tell the difference.
Well, the other ones that was sort of interesting were Batman movie. Which one was that? Where they had Gotham. And
Dark Knight.
They went through and they showed a sign that said City Chicago or something like that.
Well, I would.
One of the
I-
bloopers.
Without
I used to
covering
play.
it.
I used to play with the pipes and drums of the Emerald Society, the Chicago Police Department, and in that group, I was in Backdraft and the Funeral Scene, a movie called The Package with Gene Hackman and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then with the pipes and drums of the Chicago Police Department, which is all Chicago Police, we were in Dark Knight, the movie that I'll be signing autographs later.
Did you hear about Higgins?
Yeah, Eddie Higgins.
Eddie
yeah.
Higgins died, yeah.
Did they film you with the cowl or without the cowl?
Both ways.
You know, and Don was in Backdraft, and I was one of the technical advisors, and the scene guys, and we were going to have that burial, and I had told Ron that we were cleaning up the memorial in Rose Hill. That's where our fire department memorial is, in Rose Hill Cemetery. And I had that was my area, and I had 110 go over there and clean it all up with the goose crap and all of this, getting all ready for this scene and that. And I said, we're all set over there, and the people know all, we're gonna shoot over here and that. And he said, oh no, we're not gonna do it there. And I said, what do you mean you're not gonna? It's all ready. That's where the monument is. He went, no, he says, we're going to do it at Clark and Addison, at Graceland.
For a while too.
And I said, well, Ron, we got the thing set up. He says, no, we're going to do it over there. So, well, okay, who the hell am I to argue
But you
with
did
him?
your
and that?
job. You told them.
I did my job well.
They do that all the time.
Then we did it over at Graceland, and it cost them $58,000 to make that monument, and then all the stones around them were all there. And I thought, afterwards, I was still, I was involved with the union and so forth. I thought, I'm going to go get that statue, that monument that they built that cost $58,000. Well, it had rained. And it was made out of paper mache or whatever. And it was all just a big glob in the middle. But that's how these movies do it. They could care less
About
about the
authenticity.
money
No.
and about where it's at. Just so
But here you had the real McCoy to go.
yeah, the real McCoy, and it's right
But-
down the road.
But what happens is very often the real McCoy doesn't look like what their image of the real McCoy is supposed to look like,
Yeah.
and so they make up their own version of
Yeah,
reality.
anybody ever tell you don't look like a cop or something like that?
You ever see U.S. Marshals?
Oh,
Yes.
With that, well, we did that at, and I got working with this bunch then. We did that at the Bohemian Cemetery and at Pulaski and Foster, and we did it actually at 3 different cemeteries: Rose Hill, and then Bohemian, and that. And you would think that you were just in one cemetery,
A lot of shooting.
and
Was
that
it-
Robert Downey, Robert Downey showed his, and I guess he straightened his act out now, but he wasn't he wasn't at that time done. You know?
He disappeared for.
Oh yeah, oh
I
yeah.
had a long talk.
And Wesley Snipes, was. I was very jealous because his love interest was a French model.
Yeah,
And,
right.
oh, man, remember her? Oh, wow. And
Do you remember?
my grandson had his picture. I said, "Hey, Wes, come here." I said, "This is my grandson." I had the guy that worked for CBS, and he says, "Oh yeah, sure." So he took a couple of pictures with Matt, and he's got him framed up. Well, then
Yeah.
when he got sent to the joint for
Where-
tax evasion, I says, "Why don't you just burn those pictures now?"
Was Rose Hill? Where is that located?
Rose 5800 Ravenswood, between Ravenswood and Western.
Now that's the
Avenue.
one I read that if you're living in Chicago, you can't be buried there. No one living in Chicago can be buried there. Is that true?
That's true,
That's right.
What?
because they're not dead.
They're living.
Oh, man.
I fell into that one.
How many times I used that down here?
That's on the air. Huh?
You know, getting back to that paper mache statue or
It was a
whatever.
paper mache joke that we just heard.
Yeah, I heard that one. Do you think there's some legal rights, like they need permission, or it costs more to get through the, like
They
to
need
get to the
permits
summit,
for all
right?
that.
Oh,
No,
so no matter where
they
they
have
do,
their-
they
they-
need to have.
I would say in different
authoritative answer.
situations you may need that, but over here, you didn't. It was all set up.
I'm just talking
At
about
our-
the money end of it.
At our Civil War
Right.
roundtable once, we had a fellow who had served as historical consultant on several Civil War films, and you see this in the credits. They'll say, historic, and they'll have some professor, but he learned that the director and the actors very often are not that interested in what really happened, because he would point out things to them, and they would listen politely or sometimes not that politely and say, well, that may be, but see, we have this image, this is how we think that it should be, because they have their image of how the movie is supposed to be presented, and they don't really care if it comports directly with what was reality or not. They've got their idea.
Joseph Wamba that wrote all those police books, the Blue
LA.
Knight, and he's still writing. And I forget. I think it might have been the Blue Knight. One movie that they based on one of his novels, and he after they made it, and again,
The Choir Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Who
Oh,
yeah.
disowned it.
right, the Choir Boys,
Yeah.
and he said it's just, and they don't care. That's when he produced The Onion Field, which was a true event of
Yeah.
two Los Angeles police officers being kidnapped and one of them killed, and he produced that movie himself, and it was completely accurate. And he said that I'll never do another.
I think it's part of
So-
the standard contract that whenever an author signs over the rights to his book to Hollywood, you lose all control.
Right.
You may be hired in some capacity as a consultant, but you have no voice. Whatever you're the least important person on the set. They may listen to you, but that doesn't mean they're going to pay any attention to what you say.
Sometimes they do have contractual obligations to listen to the writer. but that's
Unless
all.
it's in the contract, unless
Right.
he's able to get that in the contract. Yeah.
Oh, the other one that's sort of interesting is Home Alone 2 was filmed in Chicago. And it was
it
supposed to
a
be in New
suburb?
York.
He was supposed to be in New York
Yeah.
City. Yeah.
I think Lake Forest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I somewhere
A lot
along
of
the way, I
that-
took photographs of the street scene before they tore it all down.
Yeah, and
That was
you
another
do-
one that I worked on, is at Home Alone. And we did, the part that I was involved in was over in the old theater at Broadway and Lawrence.
Oh, Uptown?
Oh, the
The Uptown Theater. Took that was all done in the Uptown.
The one I'd
And,
love.
and you know
Oh, sorry.
what? That kid, I can't think of his name.
Macaulay
Culkin.
Macaulay
Culkin.
Culkin. Well, whatever you think of, was right. What a brat!
Another
What an absolute brat!
Really?
Bieber, huh?
Yeah, and we wrecked all of that furniture at that scene. That was quite a good. Quite a good job.
Does anyone know where the church is that's in Home Alone? Because a lot of the film is set in this beautiful, majestic church that he hides out.
Yeah.
He hides in the nativity scene, and
It's
then he meets the older man when he's in the church.
It's on.
Where is that
It's
church?
on Armitage, and I don't know if it's there anymore.
Is it in Chicago?
Armitage and Raven. Yes.
I always pictured
Armitage
maybe
and
it's in Lake
Ravenswood.
Forest or
suburbs.
something.
And yeah, that was we filmed that at night. And
Do you know what the name by chance? You
I
remember what
no,
the-
I don't.
I would love to
don't,
see
John.
that church if it still
don't,
exists.
John.
It's a-
To Armitage and Ravenswood. Yeah.
Bill, were you involved in the filming of Code of Silence? Middle
No.
80s, Chuck Norris, a lot of scenes around Uptown and Rosehill.
Well, that's a good picture.
That was a good picture, yeah.
No.
Maybe Chuck Norris is best.
Yeah, no.
That was the scene, the
Dennis
famous scene
Farina.
in Mike's Tavern on Webster
they all
when they came, to stick
That's
the place up.
That's right.
Supposedly that's based on a true story.
40 guns.
Don just mentioned Dennis Farina, who was our hero here.
Yeah, he was.
Dennis just died. He just passed away, and
Yeah.
he used to come to the police masses all the
Yeah,
time.
all the
and
time.
Dennis was really a good guy.
He got a start in, really, I give it a 4-star movie, was The Thief.
Yes.
Right.
With
Remember
James
that
Caan,
Yeah.
I think was the star.
James
Yeah.
Caan.
Yeah,
It was a
yeah.
great movie. Michael Mann was the
That sounds right.
director. I had something to do with it, but
Great.
it was well done, and it was all Chicago.
Was that with some Marina City in it too, or was that something else?
I think they blew up the Green Mill.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did.
What- what-
Yeah.
But it's still there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
what
They
Bill-
substituted the sign. Blew up. Blew up a
Bill,
fake
Bill
sign.
had said before, like with Chicago, you'd have to have the correct fire hydrant, or you know it's not Chicago. But I can remember we were just talking about call North Side 777. There's one big glowing error in it. They talk about Honore Street, Honore.
Honore Street.
You know where Honore? You know, and that's the only thing I can
There's-
remember where they really made a.
There was a made-for-TV movie a couple years ago that was shot completely in Canada, but takes place in the city of Chicago. And this was before the Blackhawks were really popular, and all the stores and everyone's got all Blackhawks jerseys and jackets because again, it's Canada. It's a Canadian production taking place in Chicago, so everyone loves the Blackhawks.
So they
go-
think hockey is the center of the
They think
universe.
hockey's the center, and they go, let's go over there to Armitage Street. And that was just the line that everyone here cringed. They go, Armitage.
Oh, jeez.
And wouldn't you think that
What?
somebody would catch that? I mean, I hear
Yeah,
that.
right.
When I listen to the news, I hear them making mistakes.
They screw
A
up.
A lot
Yeah.
of people are not from the area that
Uh-huh.
are
Yeah.
on the area. They'll move from market to market. Another movie that was shot in the city of Chicago and the suburbs, but it's not in the city of Chicago, was The Express. It came out in 2008. It was the real-life story of the first African-American that won the Heisman Award. I was a Texas and Syracuse fan, and I was a reporter in that movie. Didn't have any lines or anything like that, but
Was it Ernie
was
Davis?
quite. Yeah, you are correct.
Yeah, he was drafted by Cleveland, and he went to the college all-star camp, and he got leukemia. And he went to college all-star camp and died. Never played.
They shot some scenes at Wrigley Field. The scenes that I were in Blue Island Park District when he was a little kid. And in Evanston, we were at Northwestern University on Ryan Field. It was Dyke Field, I think, before that. And they did actually shoot in Wrigley Field a football game.
Aha! They did shoot in the city.
They did.
One
It's
of
in
my
the city, ain't it?
One of my favorite errors, this is kind of a subsection of Chicago movies, is my hometown of Cicero, and that's the movie Guys and Dolls with Marlon Brando and Sheldon Leonard and others. There's the one gangster, Big Julie, whom they identify as coming from East Cicero, Illinois. There is no such thing as East Cicero. There's a north side of town. There's South Cicero. There was even a West Cicero Little League, but there is no such expression as East Cicero. So they obviously didn't do their research on that one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of TV shows based in Chicago that are shot in Chicago and some that are not. The Good Wife on CBS is based in Chicago, but it's completely shot in New York. And you had mentioned fire hydrants. Another tip-off is street signs and the street lights. They're always green with the white trim, and that they're nowhere to be seen on the show.
One detail they have picked up on are the O.W. Wilson checkerboard bands on the police
on the-
caps,
your
because
cap,
they no matter how inaccurate everything else is, generally the Chicago police in the movies will have the checkerboard bands on their
Those
their
that
Mike
wear
and
them.
Molly. Mike and Molly is a sitcom that's takes place in the city of Chicago, and they have some exterior shots from there, but it's probably in Los Angeles. And yes, he's a police officer in the show, and his uniform is pretty accurate.
Right.
Well, another thing that I noticed in, TV shows and movies that are supposedly filmed in Chicago, the accents, they get a lot of actors speaking like people think someone from Chicago should sound like.
Okay. Yeah.
But actually, nobody from Chicago
D's and
sounds like that.
Yeah,
The one
right.
character on
Yeah,
the
like
Chicago Fire.
the Bears.
The Bears.
Bears.
The one guy in Chicago Fire, he sounds more like Joe Pesci
Yeah, right.
to me, you know. Am I right?
Bridgeport East.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Chicago.
But talking about Dennis Farina, now Dennis Farina had a classic Chicago accent.
Yeah.
He really did. He Joe Montana, guys, as soon as you hear him talk,
vowels.
you know
They got to the
that
vowels, right.
this guy's from Chicago.
Yeah.
George Wendt.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's always kind of interesting to me that I know that today there are more movies being set in Chicago, even if they're not actually filmed here. But if you go back to the classic movies, the black and white and of the 30s, the 40s, even into the 50s, all of the cop films, detective films, they're all set in New York. They're virtually all. Hardly anything in that era was ever set in Chicago.
You know,
It's always New York.
one of the reasons for that, looking at the years that movies were filmed in Chicago, like in the 1915 and 1917 and there were a whole bunch of films. Chicago was the movie
Well, they were
capital.
actually filming
right,
things here,
Selig
right.
Studios.
and then they moved out because of the weather. But then there was like nothing
And there was
like
actual
you
filming
po-
on the East Coast.
like
in
you
those
pointed
days.
out, like during the 50s and 60s and 70s, hardly anything. And one of the reasons was Mayor Daley.
He didn't want.
He didn't want. He said, "There's nothing good is going to happen
Right,
from this."
right.
And then in like the 1979 and 80, it really increased, and that was because of Jane Byrne.
Yeah, Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
and
Lee
whatever.
Marvin. They did when they were showing the M Squad reruns on one of the local stations. They did a voiceover where Lee Marvin had been interviewed, and he said the Chicago police and the city administration wanted no part.
Right.
Here, they thought they were going to give a positive image to the Chicago PD, the way Dragnet had done for Los Angeles, and the way Naked City in New York. And the city wanted no part of it.
Right.
They would chase them away from
And
scenes.
they were dying to get in here. I know Daley he says no.
He wanted nothing to do
Right,
with it.
and they were dying to film
Right,
here.
right.
Here's one maybe nobody ever heard of here. City That Never Sleeps.
I heard of it.
I remember, yeah.
I've heard the
It was
title. Yeah.
Gig Young, 1953. Edward Arnold was in it. Mela
Yeah.
Powers.
Yeah.
I
I think I've seen it.
bunch of other people I can't think of offhand. Republic Pictures, of all people, did this.
Huh.
Republic did all those
John
serials,
Wayne, yeah.
all those westerns.
They were
It's
Roy
about
Rogers.
a guy on the job. He's on midnights. Chill Wills is in this picture. He's at a turning point in his life. It was very, very, if you want to call it highbrow, or it was a thinking film. If you ever see it, I got a matter of fact, our old friend Vic Reaney turned me onto this one. City That Never Sleeps. You can get it in a cassette on eBay or something like that for a few bucks. Did you hear the picture? It was filmed here mostly, and it all takes place in one night. So it was it's almost like a Frank Capra, a little bit of touches in there, but that's definitely.
Well, when you mentioned the thinking film, that's why none of us ever saw it. So
I heard one of you mention Joe Montana, and right after 9/11, he starred in a movie, played a fire captain, and the movie was The Guys. Never really made it anywhere. That's all that it was about a fire captain in New York City that lost most of his people at the 9/11. And a lot of that, in fact, I think most of it was shot right here in Chicago. And I remember Joe coming down to the fire academy, and that a lot of people don't realize that. And you see some of the scenes where you see a Chicago hydrant.
Yeah.
That sure wasn't in New York.
We were talking about before with Mayor Daley, the real, the original Richard I,
This is a great
being
film.
anti-filming here. When you and I were first year in the job was 1968. They started filming Gaily here, which was semi-autobiographical. That's Charles MacArthur, something. I think Bo Bridges was in it. They were getting harassed so much. They filmed so much of it. They packed up and went to Milwaukee to finish it.
Right.
I remember that happening. I've never seen it myself. Seen bits and pieces. I know it's
I had some friends who were extras in that film. I remember they were bragging about it, that they had managed to become extras of the portion when they were filming here in Chicago.
A couple of fairly well-known films that came out of the original Mayor Daley era, more or less underground films, were Mickey 1 with Warren Beatty in about 65, and then Medium Cool. It was filmed pretty much on the site of the 68 riots.
Right. Convention time stuff,
Do you think the Valentine Massacre was filmed here? I'm
No.
not aware of
I don't think it was filmed here. It looked,
Jason
they did a
Robards,
good
no.
job of reconstructing that area, though.
Yeah.
It looked like.
That's kind of a fun movie.
Mickey
Yeah,
1,
we
though,
had
you
all
mentioned.
the
I'm glad you
buildings
mentioned
and
that one.
The area and the streets.
Did anyone ever see Mickey 1?
No.
Mickey 1?
I've seen parts of it. Not
With
the whole thing.
Warren Beatty?
Kind of a dark.
There's a picture for you. This one will keep you guessing all the way.
What is Mickey 1?
He's some kind of he's a showbiz guy, like a small time comedian or something. Doesn't he stand up?
I think you're right.
Running
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
mob.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And it winds up in Chicago, like North Clark Street. They show very well here, and not way north, but like just around traffic court building around there.
Some Like It Hot also recreates the St. Valentine's Day Massacre,
Right.
but I'm sure that
Yeah.
was
No, nothing in
I'm sure-
Chicago, really.
Well, at the beginning of Some Like It Hot is
Yeah, that
Jack
is-
Lemmon and Tony Curtis witnessed the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. They don't call it exactly, but it's obviously that's what it is.
George
Too
Raft was
Big
the
Charlie, never heard of him.
And they were running from
the mob.
That's right.
If you ever go to McCormick Place's parking garage, all of the levels are for movies that have scenes that take place in Chicago.
Is that right?
There's a floor that has The Sting on it. I didn't realize this, but Risky Business. There's a floor of the parking garage, Risky Business, with Tom Cruise. Somewhere in Time with Jane Seymour.
Oh, yes.
And the actor that played Superman, Christopher Reeve, is one of the floors there. It ends up in Mackinac Island in Michigan,
Right.
but it starts out in Chicago. So that's, if you ever want to go on a trip down memory lane, all the different movies from Chicago's era, go to the McCormick Place parking garage.
How about The Fury with Kirk Douglas? Anybody remember that one? No.
He played Hitler in The Fury?
The Fury.
Oh, The Fury. I thought you said The Fuhrer.
No, The Fury.
Can't picture Kirk Douglas as Adolf Hitler.
They were filming the Fury on Lower Wacker, and I was working that night, and that's where I found out, and I watch this in all the movies that I see and tell people about it now. It's, chase scenes or any kind of street scene at night, if you take a look, the streets are always wet.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is because if they weren't, there'd be no contrast, so the car would look like it was in midair. And the reason I know that is because we were down there, and the technicians were wetting the street down. I said, "What are you doing that for?"
Yeah.
It
And they
also
said-
helps with the
Yeah.
lighting.
Yeah.
The light reflects.
Right.
Same thing with rain and snow. If you backlight it, put the lights behind the scene, you'll see the rain and snow.
Right.
You could be soaking wet, and if the lights are in front of you, you will not see rain or you'll not see snow. So that's one of the other reasons is reflections. It's too dark. So you're right with the contrast.
You remember the old movies used to see the car chases with the lights on? A lot of them was the fact that they
Underexposed the film and made day for night.
right. So
They
it
were
was
shot in
always
the
in
daytime and made it look like it was nighttime.
And they never shut off the emergency lights. There'll be 18 squads parked all still going.
Yeah, it's part of for
yeah.
effect.
Did anybody see the new movie Man of Steel,
Good God.
which is the
Yeah.
prelude or sequel to Superman? And
It's a new origin. Like,
the reason,
yeah.
the reason I know about it is because I opened up the museum, the fire museum, for their casting call, and we had they were looking for firefighters, paramedics, police, and somebody else. Oh, medical, and so the word went out, and this was only.
A couple of years ago now.
Yeah,
I remember when you-
probably
yeah.
2 years ago. Remember when I opened
Yeah,
it
but
up? Yeah.
I didn't tell me
and,
to try.
and one of our guys, Frank McMenamin, who was the second or the vice president, he got an extra shot in there, and Sammy Kazo. No, they didn't want him.
And one of the movie tie-ins for
They didn't
Superman,
want me
Man of
in that.
Steel.
Weren't you in
They
that
did.
picture?
Guy Narduli
Legend
plays a
of,
construction
the
worker during
No,
the
no, no,
commercials
no,
for
Superman.
one of the fast food restaurants with
Oh.
the actor that plays Superman.
Wait a minute, we
Mr.
got two
Cavill.
calls talking at the same time here.
One's for
You
FM.
should know better than that.
My mistake.
I will not see that film on principle because Chicago is not Metropolis. Metropolis is New York City.
No.
Always was,
No, it
always
isn't.
will be, and
We
always
have a
will be.
Metropolis,
The
Illinois.
only
Illinois,
metropolis.
Gotham.
That's the only metropolis.
Metropolis. I mean, if you know the background of Metropolis was clearly based on New York City.
Isn't
And
everything?
The Christopher Reeve films were
Isn't
filmed in New
Gotham
York
based
City.
on New York City?
That's
yeah.
the irony is that Gotham is one of the euphemisms
Yeah.
for New York City.
I don't
So
want
they're
to
both
see
New York
anything
City.
that has anything to do with New York City. I spent too much time there.
New York City.
New York City.
So what are they doing? Taking it out of that image?
Well, I don't
Or,
know. Look, the Christopher Reeve movies were filmed in New York. The very first episode of the George Reeves Superman TV show had scenes of New York, and when they were doing the establishing shots of Metropolis, it was New York
They
City.
did a lot of L.A. though too.
In later years, the L.A. City Hall became, I guess, the Daily
Daily Planet building, yeah.
But I mean, if you know the background of it, Metropolis was clearly based on New York City, so it just doesn't seem right for Chicago to try to pretend to be.
We
Metropolis.
Are we going?
getting
We'll be right back after these messages of interest and importance.
The tires on your vehicle? Do you need motor oil? Or transmission fluid? Or power steering fluid? Or antifreeze? How about the wiper blades? Are they in good, sharp condition? Is the washer fluid in your tank full? How good is your battery? Do you need to replace light bulbs? Well, the place to pick up all these items at Berkeley Auto Supply at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Stop in and see Tom, and he will get any part or supply you might need for your vehicle. Tom at Berkeley Auto Supply has everything you need for your vehicle. He has tools, parts, and supplies you might need from the front bumper to the rear bumper, and from the top of the roof to the bottom of the chassis. You can call Tom at 708-544-8350, and they are located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Tom's hours are Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Saturday from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., and on Sundays, he's open from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road, and he is just east of Wolf Road and west of Mannheim Road, about 2 miles on the south side of the street. You can call area code 708-544-8350. For parts, tools, and supplies, it's Berkeley Auto Supply. And number again is 708-544-8350, and he is located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois.
Now, back to our show.
teleprompter business.
Okay, welcome back,
Read it
everyone.
and they
Let's
don't-
get
they
some
don't
more
even-
titles out here of pictures made here. Come on, who's got one?
I'd like to mention one bit of authenticity. They mentioned the natural, and I just happened to see a bit of the natural a couple of days ago. They did have a very accurate representation of the Chicago Tribune, because you see the fellow reading about
Oh, yeah,
Roy Hobbs and
yeah.
the Tribune. They have the column in the wake of
the
the
news,
news,
yeah.
which was, and they also, you can even see the Moon Mullins
Right.
cartoon strip just above the wake of the news. So they were that part was extremely
It was
authentic.
originally in the wake of the news was Arch Ward.
Yeah.
Then it was Dave Condon.
Right.
And I forget who else. Do they still do it in the wake of the news?
I don't know if they still have that title.
Because
or not.
Arch Ward was a
Dave
real innovator.
Condon. I remember as a kid, Dave Condon.
Yeah, he was. Arch Ward was a real innovator. He was a good friend of the Colonel's too. I understand. I mean, yeah, he starts the baseball All-Star game, the
Colonel of
All-Star,
Chicago.
the All-Star football game, college All-Star. For you young ones out there, the beginning of every football season, the Tribune had a charity game where they would get all these players who were basically graduated from college, not all of them, and they would play the NFL champions in the opening game, and
Tribune
that would kick off.
charities.
Yeah, that would kick it off, and we went to a lot of those games. As a matter of fact, we were at Tom McKenna, myself, and some of the guys were at the year the Jets were there, and it was in 1969. The Jets played the college All-Star game, and game, and Otto Graham coached the All-Stars. And anyway, it was a pretty tight game. Well, at the end, we're leaving, and Corky Lyons, John Lyons, who was killed 12, 15 years ago, whatever it was, in a car accident, but he says, look, there's Parsegian. Well, Aaron Parsegian was sitting above us somewhere, which must have been a cheap seat, Arrow. I don't know what's wrong with you. But anyway, and Tom says nice and loud, they should have played for a tie. So, which is a reference to...
Yeah, that was the year that the famous Michigan State Notre Dame tie game.
Anyway, but I had to put that out there. Anyway. Okay, come on, let's some more titles, more Chicago titles.
Well, I was just thinking of, certainly had nothing to do with being filmed in Chicago, but perhaps the first movie with Chicago in the title was in Old Chicago, the 1938 movie with
Don Amici.
The little-known fact that Don Amici, one of the O'Leary brothers, was mayor of Chicago at the time of the fire.
Oh.
Well-done movie, but
yeah,
I'm sure nothing was shown.
What's her
of
name?
Chicago.
I knew he invented the telephone, but you didn't know he was also mayor of Chicago.
Yes, he was. Who watched the fire from the top of the city hall building.
No, Don Amici.
In Old Chicago.
Yeah, but who was married to...
Tyrone Power was in
Francis
it.
Langford?
No, she might have been. I don't think she was in it.
Is Alice Faye in that too?
Oh,
She
Alice
tended
Faye.
to be
There
in
you
all
go.
the
Thank
pictures
you.
with
Alice
Don
Faye.
Amici. That was a...
Alice Faye was married
Brian
to...
Donlevy, of
Phil
course.
Harris.
Alice Faye and
Who was she married to?
Phil Harris.
Phil Harris, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
He always played the drunk.
I saw their home in New Orleans when I was there. She was still alive at the time. Alice Faye and Phil
Okay,
Harris's
here-
big mansion in New Orleans.
Okay.
Shows we had
Here's one.
downtown, huh?
8 Men Out from the Elliot Asanoff book.
All day.
8 Men Out.
$1 a quarter.
The
8 Men Out. Ever
Black
heard of it?
Sox.
About the Black Sox
Yeah.
scandal. Yeah.
Has anyone seen that? Or,
Yeah.
Excellent picture. I thought it was well.
Takes
well
place
Studs Terkel had a little part in it.
Yeah.
Nicely done movie. Yeah.
He's a great actor, wasn't he?
I'm not sure about this, but I think
makes you feel proud to be a sports writer.
speaking of writers and things, I think the movie I Love Trouble with Nick Nolte and Julia Roberts, was that taking place in Chicago? I believe they shot the beginning at WFLD Channel 32, but I'm not sure. And then The Fugitive, we talked about it there in the break a little bit. Michigan Avenue, the hotels there, they had all the
Yeah.
Channel 2 news
St.
team
Patrick's Day
pretending to
Parade?
be different station people at the end of the movie.
A lot filmed in Pullman in that. Yeah.
And if you're talking about
Ken was down there with Patrick Swayze. Next
was
to
it?
Liam Neeson. Next to Ken, Patrick Swayze. He was the
Ken.
cemetery at the end.
I
And
don't know that one.
You don't remember that one? No.
But doesn't mean you're wrong.
The mob fighting hillbillies from Kentucky.
Yeah.
You know, that was a famous.
Hillbillies from Kentucky.
Yeah. They had bow and arrows.
Come and
and
listen to my story about a man named
Wow.
Jed. Poor mountaineer, barely kept his family.
Yeah.
Good old Chicago, huh?
And if you're talking about TV shows, if we expand this to TV shows, Married with Children takes place in the city of Chicago, even though it was not shot here.
Untouchables had a series, or
Yeah.
Couple of
In
them.
March of
Yeah, that's right.
1932, Elliot Ness and his
Or
Untouchables.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Well, the Untouchables.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
The later seasons, they were all over the place. They
Yeah.
were begging the German-American Bund.
In New
They
York,
were,
and
into
they were in
narcotics.
Kansas
in the
City.
Pacific,
and-
yeah. They did everything. And he was, I say, he was a revenuer. That's all he was.
Early Edition was a show that was shot and filmed in Chicago about a man who got the Sun-Times a day beforehand, lived
Kyle
at
Chandler.
the Blackstone
That's right.
Hotel for a while.
Miles Chandler.
Yeah.
They took a lot of liberties. The scripts were probably not written in Chicago because there were a lot. Even though it was shot in Chicago, you think someone from Chicago would be like, "This is not quite right." He would often take the Brown line to go to O'Hare on the CTA. Instead of aldermen, we had selectmen. For some reason, there was like six. There were six selectmen that ran the city.
Well, if you-
Home
if
boots
you,
on
uh,
Michigan Avenue.
If you go to like one of those ER or something, everybody in Chicago rides the L according to some of these series. Did you ever notice that? Well, I know people who've never been on in their life.
Never
you know,
been.
Bob Newhart's show, of course, was set in Chicago.
walking down Michigan Avenue. Yeah. Of course, he was set here too. He's from here.
Yeah, he was born in New
Oak
York.
Park.
Show him riding.
Which
showed
was
him
the
riding
other
the
one
train
when
to get to his
ER
office.
was on? There was another one here.
Yeah, it was just like it.
Chicago
wasn't it?
Hope was the other show. They were on at the
Hope,
same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Chicago Hope was
Yeah.
on CBS and ER was on NBC. And I think Chicago Hope was not
Folded.
was not shot in Chicago, whereas ER would come out every now and then and shoot some scenes here.
They shoot the bridge near Tribune Tower or something like that.
Mob Doctor on Fox last year. This year we have Chicago Fire, and now we have the spin-off Chicago PD.
What about Chicago Code that failed so magnificently? Remember that a few years ago?
Yeah.
The Chicago Code?
Chicago Code, yeah.
And they were, Anyway. Where else are we going? Okay, here's one for you. A sports picture. Little kid. He grows up wanting to play football for Notre Dame. And he
Rudy.
eventually does.
Rudy.
Rudy, yeah, it was.
Oh,
Yeah,
That was
yes.
shot. What is supposed to be Joliet Catholic High School is old St. Rita campus where we went to school. The old campus, which is now
Is
torn
that where they
down.
shot it?
Yeah, the
And yet
football
it had
field,
an Indiana
the school.
theme. Indiana
Well, Notre Dame-
background,
Notre Dame.
or Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
he was from
Indiana.
Joliet.
Okay.
So, and
No, what I meant, I didn't think that was shot
Yeah.
here. Oh.
He's still around.
who's that?
Rudy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kid, he made 24,
Yeah.
the series 24.
Andrew Rudiker.
Yeah. What I liked
his
is
name?
Yeah.
Is it?
I actually know his brother, so they're all Rudy in that family. All the guys are Rudy.
okay.
Because the Rudiker's the last name, German name.
Okay. The point I'm bringing out is the theme was that never give up.
Yeah,
Keep
right.
on trying. Typical of watching a kid go through his dreams, and but I didn't know it was shot here. I
Newt
always
Rock-
thought it was
Parts of it wasn't.
here.
Well,
Newt Rockney, All-American, the early part of the film. The Rockney family is living in Chicago,
yeah, they came here from Norway,
Pat O'Brien?
and he stayed here.
working in the post office.
You know what's amazing? You look at the real history. When Rockney died in that crash, he was 43 years old.
Rockney or
43.
Rocky Marciano?
Rockney.
Oh.
Newt Rockney.
Knut Rockney.
Oh, Newt Rockney. Okay.
Knut.
Canute.
Canute.
Knut Rockney.
But
You know what his
Norwegian, I think.
You know what his middle name was? All Notre Dame fans should know this.
Gipper. What is that?
That was Ronald Reagan.
Kenneth.
Sven.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay.
Kenneth.
Knut
Okay.
Kenneth
K.
Rockney.
K. Rockney.
KKR.
I know there was a time when they show in the film he gets an ad that says here's a proposition you'll be interested in. We want a new product. We're going to call it the Rockney Rub. And he crumples it up. Rockney loves stuff like that. Endorsements and and Studebaker endorsed, and I think they even called one Studebaker model the Rockney one year or something like that. Because they were right down there in South Bend.
Studebaker's gone, so we don't
Well,
know.
yeah, but I mean,
No,
I'm talking about
I'm
1920s.
teasing you.
20s, come on.
Baker.
Auburn, Indiana, yeah.
And I think Ohio State made some serious offers to get him come over there to coach. The Ohio State University.
I'll never leave Notre Dame.
But that's two Notre Dame pictures we're talking about. There's a third one. Most everyone has never heard of because it's never on. 1931, The Spirit of Notre Dame. This is the picture. Was supposed to have Rockney in it as himself. Remember in the Rockney picture where he says he's got to fly out to the West Coast to testify. He was actually going out to be in that movie, and it crashed in the way. So what they did was they took this actor J. Farrell McDonald. You know who that is? He's the old guy in It's a Wonderful Life when George crashes into the tree. The guy comes out of the house.
Oh, yeah.
That's-
really?
My
that's J.
great
Farrell
grandfather planted that
yeah,
tree.
that's him. But anyway, they never called him Rockney; they just called him the coach. In it, so they dedicated it to Rockney. Did you ever hear that picture? Yeah, no.
Well, in one of the early Three Stooges films, they impersonate the Three Horsemen
Yeah.
from that great school, Boulder Dam
Yeah, yeah.
University. Boulder Dam
Boulder
University.
Take the ball and go that way. Who else is in that movie?
Lucille
Lucille
Ball.
Ball, yeah.
Lucille Ball. She
Oh
said
my
they asked her
God,
what did
that's
she
a-
learn from the Stooges, and she said, "I learned to duck."
And Walter Long was the gangster. Well, he was an old Griffith player. There was a lot of Laurel and Hardy's, but anyway, let's get back to.
There's
Oh.
there's something, probably nobody knows this, but I happened to be there and I saw it. But in that U.S. Marshals movie with Wesley Snipes, I had an interrogation with him and in this scene, and he broke. I put my glasses down and he broke them, and we're arguing, and we have to seduce him, and he got a piece of glass and part of my arm on the glass. That's how, when they put him on a prisoner plane to go to a prison with Tommy Lee Jones in it and all that stuff. Anyway, the plane crashes. Wesley, the reason it crashes is a guy on the plane was an assassin and was ordered to kill Wesley Snipes. He had some kind of a fool gun, I don't know. And he fired, Wesley saw him, and he ducked and blew a window out. The plane crashes, and this was done in Kentucky. And they really had a plane down there, part of a plane anyway, and the plane tips over. Wesley gets out, and the swamps and stuff all down there. A lot of prisoners get away, but Wesley hates water. He will not go in the river where they have to film this. So they didn't know what to do. So they went to a swimming pool in Oak Park, and they show him swimming, in the swamp and this and that. But all you see is his head come up in the pool at Oak Park. Only you don't know. You think it's a swamp. And his head comes up and he's in the pool. Only, it's a swamp.
Yeah.
And he fooled everybody with that.
Yeah.
That's what they had to go
The
to.
image was there.
Yeah, right.
The
Then he
magic
went
of
to
movies.
jail.
Yeah. Well,
That's
what I mean.
same movie. Remember when the cars were when they were leaving the cemetery,
Yeah.
and they were gonna, they had the smash, they had the car crash there,
Yeah.
and they were gonna go out on Pulaski, out on the road, and I was working on the fire department, but I was over there on my own and giving my 2 cents and he said, I said, wait a minute, where are you going to go? He says, well, we're going to have a chase out here on the Pulaski. And I said, this is a busy street. So I officially called for a couple of rigs over there and blocked off Pulaski.
Oh, did you?
And thank God I did, because
Never would have pulled
they would
man, you would have
if
had
somebody
us-
would have been driving down Pulaski at that time, they'd have been hit.
Yeah.
They've been cremated.
Well,
You see these scenes on Lakeshore Drive all the time, too, that they are speeding down the street, too, and you have to cut it off. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem.
Well, a lot of that isn't done on Lakeshore Drive.
Well,
either.
I realize that, but there's a few scenes you see on
Yeah.
Lakeshore Drive.
Yeah.
I'll give you a really obscure Chicago tie-in. There's a little-known black and white movie made about 1949 called Invasion USA. And it stars Gerald Moore, who's a great character actor of that era. He's sort of a low-budget Humphrey Bogart.
right.
You would recognize him if you saw him.
Good voice.
And he was playing. He's arguing in a bar in New York about military preparedness, whether America needs to be prepared for war, and the other guy's arguing we need to disarm. We should. And what happened, I don't remember how they set it up, but one of them imagines, he's knocked out or he passes out, and he imagines what it would be like if the United States was unprepared and were actually invaded by the Soviet Union. And it ends up with there are troops guarding the Capitol building because there are Russian agents have been parachuted into the country, and they're disguised as GIs. And this one GI asks the other GI, "Where are you from?" And the other GI, who's a Russian saboteur, says, "Oh, I'm from Chicago." And the first GI says, "Gee, how are the Cubs doing?" And this Russian hasn't been briefed very well, so he says, "Cubs? That's a little bear." So the first GI shoots him, knowing that. So that was how he knew that this guy was not authentically from Chicago. That he thought the Cubs that's a little bear.
Yeah, that's
Gerald
what he
Moore.
was prompted for.
Gerald Moore with a great voice,
Yeah.
did a lot of radio.
Yeah.
A lot of the Lone Rangers, the early ones.
A lot of
He's the one that
westerns.
says, "We'll return to our story after these moments of this message of interest and importance." That's the narration on that. So.
I thought that was Rich Lang.
He was a singer.
Well, yeah,
Gerald Moore?
He's almost as good as Rich.
No, he's not a singer.
didn't
He actually portrayed Humphrey Bogart like
Types.
characters on the
Roadshow-
radio and
Roadshow
movies
Bogart.
and television.
Yeah, Roadshow Bogart. He was, I think, in the Lone Wolf movies too for Columbia series.
Yeah, Roadshow Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah,
What
they're
was
pretty
his
good.
name?
Gerald Moore,
M.O.H.R..
M-O-H-R. Gerald Moore.
Yeah,
You would
you know.
recognize him if
Yeah.
you see a lot of TV. He actually did a Bogart-like character in a Maverick episode where he plays, it's kind of a Casablanca tie-in where he runs this saloon, and storylines based on Casablanca.
Now, we're talking about U.S. Marshals before. That is a sequel, right, to The Fugitive?
There's billing
Yeah.
is that.
Is it?
Right.
I'll have you know, my cousin, Kathleen Ryan, is in The Fugitive. When he's going down the stairway, she's coming up the stairway. One of those extras.
Oh, yeah, I remember now.
Remember seeing that? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that was your cousin, huh?
Yeah, that was her. You've seen her.
I thought it was your cousin when I saw it. I wasn't
And she didn't get
positive.
David Jansen's autograph either.
No.
You know what? When we
Or
were
Barry Morris either.
when we were filming Backdraft, I was Jimmy Joyce was the fire commissioner, and I was the guy supposedly watching out for things. And one of the things that they were going to pull in there was that they were going to have a fire in the liquor store, and the firemen were going to load the hand pump and their boots up with bottles, and
That's
and
never
take it out
happened.
and when
I'm
they
shocked that they would even think of
Yeah, right.
and when it came out, I was to give Jim a heads up on anything that was going on, and they showed me this, and I said no, absolutely no. So I went back and the next day, and I told Jim, that what had happened. I said, with the words that I won't repeat here, that's what they were going to do, and he says, well, did you tell him no? I said, absolutely, Jim. So a couple of days later, I don't know how they put it in, was the scene with the girl up on top of the hose bed, and I had a meet with Joyce a day or two later, and he said, "You let him do that?" And I said, "Jim, I wasn't around when they did that, but they snuck that one in."
Yeah, that was.
Oh, certainly nothing like that never happened.
Oh no.
Getting hosed.
But that's the way things happened with that. With that whole thing. You got to have somebody there.
Well, it's the Chicago reputation.
Exactly.
If you remember the comedian Mort Saul,
No.
he told a story. We claimed it was true. Who knows? But he said when he was driving around the country, he never had a problem with the police getting a ticket, because when he got out of his car, he would take his wallet out and he would drop a $10 bill on the ground and say, "Oh, excuse me, officer, I think you dropped that $10 bill."
That's clever.
And it was. So he said, "Well, it worked until I got to Chicago." He said, "I got stopped on Lakeshore Drive and I got out, and I did the same thing, dropped a $10 bill on the ground, and I said, 'Excuse me, officer, I think you dropped that $10 bill.' And the Chicago cop looked down and said, 'No, I dropped a 20.'"
Is he still around, Mort Saul?
Oh, I don't.
If he is,
I
he
don't
must be
think so.
pretty much up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was like political commentary, like during the Kennedy-Nixon years.
Yeah.
Very on the ball.
Sharp, yeah.
Mort Saul had a great line about bias in Hollywood. He says, I started as a comedian in the 50s making jokes about Eisenhower and the Republicans, and everybody in Hollywood loved me. I was getting bookings everywhere. He says, and then Kennedy was elected, and the Democrats were in office, and I made the mistake of continuing to tell jokes. And I found out the people who thought that all those jokes about the Republicans were so funny, they didn't think it was funny making fun of the guy that they had voted for. He says, all of a sudden, all the bookings dried up, and I couldn't get work anywhere.
That's true.
Interesting.
Yeah. No,
Interesting.
that's how
Anybody's supposed to be fair.
politics is,
If you're
isn't it?
fair, you're supposed to be able to kid out anybody.
And he was quite liberal, too. But, I mean, it was surprising that he
Yeah.
was willing to admit
remember-
the fact that there was this, this
Yeah.
double
I don't remember he
standard.
kind of kidded everybody, though, didn't he?
That was his point, that
Yeah.
he was going to make fun of
Yeah.
whoever was in office, and it wasn't funny when the other side was in office.
That's when it picked
Although it was
up.
a-
Huh?
Yeah, that's when his
They
career
don't seem
went
to
down the
have
drain.
a very
Sense of humor?
sense of humor, especially now too.
But he thought, he was going to continue doing the same thing he had done, and he found out the bookings, the nightclubs didn't want him anymore.
I remember he was engaged to Phyllis Kirk. Remember Phyllis Kirk?
Brunette.
No.
Yeah.
Anybody remember Phyllis Kirk?
James
She's
T.
a
Kirk's
good-looking
niece.
lady.
Yeah.
A little
Captain Kirk's niece.
attractive young lady.
Don
Yes.
remembers.
Prominent
Yeah.
actress of the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, she was.
She's
Let's see, I think she was in House of Wax, and I think she was in. Well, she was in. There was a.
She was in a TV series.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's kind of coming to me now.
Nick and Nora Charles, the Thin Man.
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
TV series
she
with
was in a
Peter
Private Eye
Peter
series.
Lawford.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Now I know.
Very, very thin one with like a. I think she had a page
Yeah.
boy, AKA a Prince Valiant.
Dark hair, brunette.
Yeah. So did Prince Valiant. He had dark hair. Anyway, come on, let's have some more Chicago movies out here. We can't be running out already.
We got to do one of the best Chicago lines of all time, which is Sean Connery saying, He sends one of your guys to the hospital, you send
to the
two of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they did some pretty good shots there too. Like he's walking along its Lower Michigan bridge. He runs into Kevin Costner. Remember that? He says he's walking the beat. And he says, "What are you doing with the gun? Like he called it something else." He says, "I'm a treasury agent." Oh, okay. Why don't you search me? Well, why would you say you were if you weren't one? You know, like, why would you say you were a treasury agent? But,
Does anybody know if the movie Chicago, which is taken from the play Chicago, one of the great one, the musical, it was any of that done in Chicago?
it was on Canada.
Was it?
Yeah, the more recent one, in recent years.
Yeah.
That's been done how many times? Roxy Hart.
Oh, that's
And,
a great.
They did a 40s version of that with Ginger Rogers.
Right.
Yeah.
Roxy Hart, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Chicago scenes are done in Toronto.
Yeah.
A lot of movies are done in
Yeah.
Toronto. Yeah.
Non-union.
Yeah. Exactly.
But okay, come on, let's go some more. Okay.
It's your always favorite show called Good Times.
that was set here, but
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was
Cabrini Green.
Yeah.
I imagine.
How much fun it was living in Cabrini Green.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Well, you know, when I. This is
Well,
coming back.
the male star there hated what's the guy's name? The Dynamite Kid.
Oh, Jimmy Walker.
Yeah, he hated Jimmy Walker and everything else. He quit the show.
Oh, John Amos.
Hey, John Amos. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
He wound up
mentioned
playing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on the West Wing.
Oh yeah.
Wait a minute, I don't remember that. Amos?
John Amos.
John
Amos.
Amos, yeah.
He was
Quit the-
he was only in their
Father.
first year or so.
I don't
never watched
remember
the show,
that.
but
Yeah.
What were you saying?
the point, he happened to say Cabrini Green to kind of get off of your movie part, but yeah, when they first started, Cabrini Green first built it, and no one lived there. It was a lovely building
Yeah.
and a very nice piece of land, and it looked great. So they had a day where you could go over there and see it and tour the various apartments, and I was one of them, and another girlfriend of mine, and I came home and just begged my parents to think of moving there. I had never seen a sink that didn't have the legs, you know. It was the cabinet and the nice big white stove. And,
Elevators?
yeah, elevators, and you know. And I'm thinking now, oh my
Landscaping,
goodness!
yeah.
I mean, now that I think of where I was at, but it was a good-looking place. I mean, they really came into a nice set of apartments.
Nobody knew what an incinerator was.
Well, there you are. But I mean, here you are,
Or
a
urinal.
kid not living a bad life, but I was very impressed.
Right, all the high-rise buildings like that on the south side, Stateway Gardens, and
Robert Taylor.
they were never meant to be policed.
That's
You know, they
it.
never thought that there would be a lot of crime.
Yeah.
And like somebody said that when they built those, they didn't eliminate the slums; they just institutionalized them.
Yeah, put them in a
Vertical
nice little
slum,
setup.
vertical
When,
Right.
Vertical slums.
In the
Yeah.
70s and 80s, my partner and myself once might get a ride along in the afternoon. So what I would do is go on 51st and just drive the fire lane all the way down to 47th to see, get the people in the right frame of mind.
I talked to
And
people
then-
that worked
and
in
then draw
those
some fire.
slums there, and they said the first thing you got to do is get out of the place by 2:00. And my wife actually was working as a VNA, visiting nurse, and she went down to 22nd and State. I don't remember what those.
Ickies or something there.
I don't remember what they
Yeah.
were called. Anyway, she said that people were watching for her, and she didn't show up there within 5 minutes of the time they saw her come down the street. They'd be out looking for her.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine?
So they were great people living there. The problem is some of their neighbors.
Well, the hoods were running it. I could see Tom, we were about 21 when we started over there. I could see there should have been a closed access hallway with a buzzing system up and
Yeah.
down, No, just wide open like that.
Well, the other problem was the city of Chicago ran it.
No, actually, it's not the city. It's the Chicago Housing Authority, the
Chicago
federal
Housing, but it's a-
corporation.
It was a federal agency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either
Well, I
way,
know-
it didn't work too well.
Well, when they built the Area 1 headquarters in the second district at 51st Street, and traffic worked out of there too, expressways. on the 4th of July or New Year's Eve, you couldn't park in the lot there because that's when everyone in the buildings, the other side of the tracks, tested out their weapons.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one guy, he had like 5 bullet holes in his car on New Year's Eve.
11:45, go find a spot underneath an elevation somewhere and stay there for whatever.
Well, I know when I first started working for the water department, if you worked the 31st, usually you relieved you early so you can get out of there before they start celebrating New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have gunshots all the way across the road. But a lot of buildings were torn down, before I really got involved with it too much, so they started getting quiet.
What's fascinating is the people who fire guns into the air and think that bullet
Never
either
go
goes
nowhere,
into
huh?
space
Yeah.
or disappears.
Yeah,
They don't seem to understand that
Comes
the law of gravity, that bullet's going to come
You just
back
said
down.
it, John. They don't understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Come on.
That's a good.
You know who you're talking about?
Or don't want to understand, huh?
Yeah, common sense and logic does not enter into the
No,
picture.
no.
You take a look at all the time with the Middle East countries, you see shooting guns in the air
yeah.
all the time. Some of these are automatics. They're
Saddam Hussein. There was a film clip of Saddam Hussein where he had this automatic rifle in his
Yeah.
hand. He's firing it into the air. Of course, he didn't care how many of his people he killed, but
The media there doesn't really cover, after that occurrence.
Yeah.
So
It's not
who
sensationalized.
knows? Who knows?
They
You
have
gotta remember, the media only covers sensationalism.
Oh, yeah.
well, they have state-controlled media, kind of like we almost have here.
Yeah.
No, you don't have state control. It's all the same. Don't make any difference.
da-da-da-da-da-da.
Going back to Chicago and the movies, do you all remember the time that Chicago was invaded by giant grasshoppers?
Oh, God,
Peter Graves' movie, I think, was called The Beginning of the End, around 58
They're
or
at
so.
63rd and Kedzie.
Was it?
And the great special effects, you had a photo of the Wrigley Building. They just probably put some grasshoppers on it.
Well, some of those old special effects were
Oh, yeah.
laughable.
You look at them now, but
Yeah,
they were state of the art in our
Yeah.
day.
Yeah,
But the animation was so
stop motion.
very,
They just did film superimposed shots of the locust, wasn't it, or something?
Something
No,
like
that's
that.
a lot
That
of
was
it, yeah.
no
Well,
stop
look
action.
at this news bunch yesterday, where the three, and I don't remember their names now. They're sports guys, and the one was eating a cupcake, and then he throws it behind him, and it ends up on the wall.
It was green
With
screen.
the wall, the green, the green tree or whatever they
Green
call
screen,
it.
yeah.
And it's actually a picture showing there of the city or something.
Oh, you
like
see a
that.
lot of that.
I mean, that just is a little sample of. You can't believe everything you see.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny about that, if somebody wears green, you can see through them. And
Oh, yeah.
used to have blue screen, which is about the same thing. And somebody had a blue shirt.
Yeah, same with
Looked like a
white
ghost
blue
or something.
shirts.
Yeah.
Right.
That was funny as hell.
How many? We're talking about movies.
Station break.
We got a station
We'll
break.
be right back
Oh,
to our
Bro-
discussion
you're
following
first
the
up when we come
short
back.
intermission.
You hold that thought.
Exhibitors Carpet Service has changed their name to Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, and their new location at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, Illinois, called Carpet of Highwood. Stop in at Carpet Warehouse, 4300 Montrose Avenue, phone number area code 773-283-0100, or at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, phone number area code 847-266-1400, for carpet in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room. Stop in at either location for a great deal. Once again, Carpet Warehouse, 4300 Montrose Avenue in Chicago, area code 773-283-0100, or Carpet of Highwood at 440 North Sheridan Road, area code 847-266-1400. Remember, if you need a carpet for your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room, stop in at 4300 Montrose Avenue in Chicago. Again, their phone number is area code 773-283-0100 or at 440 Sheridan Road in Highwood, and their number is area code 847-266-1400 for a real great deal.
Now back once again to Meet the Chicago Historians. Jack.
Well, we're not at the home stretch, but we're around the far turn, and let's see if we can come up with some more.
I've got one.
Who wants? Wait a minute now. Introduce everyone first.
I think everyone should be introduced
Okay,
again.
how are you?
Jack.
My name's
You're Jack Ryan?
That's me.
How are
How
you?
do
You're Jack
you?
Ryan, and I'm Bill Kugelman.
And I'm Jeanette Frontier.
John Escacholco.
Rich Lang.
Diana Harrion.
Opitz.
Tom McKenna.
And Kevin Zaflik.
John Thomas Ryan.
And me, I'm Ed McMahon.
And that's it.
And you told
You have a
everybody
thought?
that I would. Yes.
You're holding a thought, okay.
Do anybody remember all of the studios that were here in
you.
the city?
S&A.
You got S&A.
Selig.
Yeah.
Or Selig. Yeah.
There you
S&A
go.
came from
New Jersey.
Spoor and Anderson were the names.
Oh,
S-P-O-O-R, Spoor
Okay.
and Anderson, S&A.
Sounds right.
okay. I've got a little history.
Go ahead.
I worked as a
Male model.
dick at the old Sherman Hotel. No, no, they didn't want me as a model. And the Sherman Hotel was where the State of Illinois building is now. But anyway, right down the street, down Randolph, was a building that we called the Showman's Club.
It's still there.
And a lot of people there from the movies, from TV, and so forth, stayed there, and then they stayed at the Sherman. And there's a lot of stories about that with these people. I can't think of his name now. The guy that had the TV show, and he would bring his horse in to Goldie.
Arthur Godfrey.
Arthur Godfrey would bring Goldie and that type of thing, and we had all of these people from the movies, like I say, in TV, and we had a lot of these people that had a gambling habit, and they liked to play with those little square things with,
Rolling them
with the
bones?
numbers on them, and or with the little dots on them, and we made a lot of people, leave, but we knew which ones also
Isn't that
to
Oprah's
stay.
building? It turned into Oprah's building.
1400
or 1100 West.
I don't know if it was or not, Don, but in the hotel.
There was an armory, wasn't it?
The studio.
The Showman's Club. No, it was
it was the
where that
Armory.
State of Illinois building was now.
Oh, okay.
And we found out who would come yearly, and we would wait for them, and we knew that we were always pretty well set on some pretty good games up in the hallways of the hotel, and these people were absolute, gambling nuts. I mean, they just had the bug, and there was no way you could get around it. It was bad as the horse
money.
degenerates. These were gamblers and that. And I know I've got some things that I cherish from these people. But that was the people that came to Chicago to earn a living.
Wasn't the College Inn there? Was that in the Sherman House?
Yes, yes,
Because almost every famous big band
was there.
played there.
Yeah.
The only thing
yeah.
that's left of the College Inn is the can of soup, College Inn soup, some
Oh,
kind.
broth? College Inn
yeah.
broth. Yeah.
But I found fascinating one time I was in Las Vegas watching a woman play a dollar coin machine. And she sit there. She must have dropped 25 bucks a minute.
Well, the Breakfast Club was there too.
Yeah.
We had
Don
that,
Amici.
and we had a lot of people. I mean, that was the place to go for,
Don McNeil?
for people. Don McNeil's
Is
Breakfast
First
Club.
call for breakfast.
Is McNeil Hospital named after Don McNeil?
I don't think so. I don't.
Everybody knows that Judy Garland did Meet Me in St. Louis, but I think it was her next to last film for MGM was set in Chicago. It's co-stars Van Johnson and Spring Byington and Buster Keaton and S.Z. Sakel, and it's called In the Good Old Summertime.
Is that set in Chicago?
It's set in Chicago around the turn of the century. It's a remake of The Shop Around the Corner, which takes place in Hungary, I believe, but it's set in
Budapest.
Chicago. Pardon?
Budapest.
And takes place in Chicago, turn of the century. There's a scene of a German beer garden of the time. And I think there are even some establishing shots of the lakefront, but obviously not actually shot in the city of Chicago.
Before we forget, can I tell my Arthur Godfrey story?
Hawaii.
Can I tell you? Going back to like 1957, we used to go down to the stock show. He used to come here for that, the International Horse Stock Show, Horse and Exposition. Remember, Livestock. It was International Livestock Exposition and Horse Show at the amphitheater. They judge the champions, all that. What he'd do his show or shows. He had TV and radio from there all week long. So we didn't have the money to go in to see the arena show where he'd have his horse. So he's exercising Goldie outside, like the main arena. We're standing around, and he rides over and he stops. Tom's heard this story how many times? he says, everybody points to me and he says, if you want to see what I looked like 40 years ago, look at that kid there. So my dad thought I was going to be a TV star over there or something. It didn't work. I could have been his teenage brother on TV, kind of like Carol Burnett did, you know.
And hopefully that's the last time I just heard that story.
I got to pass it on to the grandchildren now. But anyway, it was right around that era, 1957.
He didn't fire you on the air the way he did Julius Rosa.
Well, he would,
Kid,
and
you're
that's
fired.
about the era that I was working there. You know, I went on the job in '55 and worked over there. And he'd bring Goldie into the hotel, and we would have to clean out well, not me, but the boys would have to clean out a room.
Goldie would stay at the hotel.
Goldie would stay at the hotel.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Come here, Kate.
I was going to make a joke about that before.
Yeah, but what's funny about Arthur Godfrey, he used to peddle Chesterfield cigarettes all the time.
Buy them by the carton.
And then he
Can you make it?
Lung
developed
cancer.
lung cancer.
Yeah.
He cussed them out after that.
And he used to. He also had Lipton chicken noodle soup.
Right.
This is,
He said chicken would walk through the soup. Right?
Yeah. He said walk by it.
There's
no
a chicken
there.
in here somewhere, folks. You'd be proud. There's a movie that was made in the late 50s called The Great Man. It stars Jose Ferrer, and Jose Ferrer is doing an obituary on a great celebrity who has died, a beloved radio and television personality who has died. And as he digs into the story, he finds out that this beloved personality was not a very nice guy in personal life. And I remember one of the descriptions was, it says, the rumor is that this was based on a celebrity whose initials are AG.
Well,
Gosh.
A Face in the Crowd. His character was also supposed to be based on Arthur Godfrey. A Face in the Crowd. Andy Griffith.
I've never seen that picture.
Yeah, it's his first picture, and he's a real. Well, I can't say it on the air, I guess, but he's a real SOB to everybody around
It's
him.
the same premise.
And he
Yeah.
referred to his people as all the little Godfreys, you know.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
all
That
the
was
little
his
Godfreys,
excuse
all
Let's
the
see.
little
Julius,
gods.
yeah.
Frank Parker and Marion Marlowe.
Oh, yeah.
And Holly
Arthur.
Loki was the one singer.
At one time, he had
Carmel-
3 or 4
Carmel
network
Quinn.
series
Yeah.
simultaneously.
I think
He was
Carmel
on the
Quinn is
radio,
still alive.
the
Television,
afternoon,
yeah.
the evening. You couldn't turn
Talent
anything
Scouts.
on without
Carmel
seeing
Quinn.
Arthur
Yeah.
Godfrey.
Arthur Godfrey. Arthur.
Who's the guy?
Arthur Godfrey's talent scouts he had?
Arthur Godfrey's, the Arthur
Julius
Godfrey
LaRosa.
Hour.
Friends.
Yeah, he discovered him, I
He
believe.
didn't
And then
have humility, I think, was the reason.
Yeah.
He made Hawaii to some degree a little more noted You said
In
Hawaii.
Miami
the
Beach.
I thought that was Don Ho.
Ukulele was always the other thing. Nobody ever heard of the ukulele.
There's an
before.
Arthur Godfrey Causeway
Yeah.
in Miami
Play
Beach.
his few little songs.
Well, they say that Hawaii, it wasn't based on how are you, it was on Hawaii, that was how he would say Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii. That's why that they did
Which
this,
is
the stock impersonation of him is Hawaii, Hawaii, Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a character. One tiny little tidbit I picked up just this morning, I guess it never really crossed my mind. Do any of you know the origins of the name Harpo Studios, Oprah's studio?
Backwards.
You got it.
Oprah back.
Yeah, I think
Her, her name's
Marx,
spelled.
what was connection with? But how'd that fit in? Harpo and Oprah, just reversing the lettering. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Well, supposedly the name should be Orpa. Isn't that true? They misspelled.
I don't
They really
know.
misspelled her name originally.
Didn't know that.
Could be. Yeah, there was a lot of misspelling names, and a few people. One of my people I talked to on the internet, nice way to put it, but her name's Elizabeth, and it's I said there's any relation to Elizabeth Scott because no E in the beginning.
Elizabeth.
Oh, Elizabeth with it.
Yeah, and she said no, they just forgot to put the E in.
Yeah, and some ethnic groups too have a different way of spelling the same word by
Same
leaving
name,
off an E or a Y or whatever.
Sean. Shaun. Shawn. No, Sean should be right.
Hedy
was
Lamar
Tom
and
Fast?
Headley Lamar.
Headley, yeah.
That's
Was it-
Headley.
Oh, it's,
Wasn't Mayor Daley and a congressman going to buy that studio
I
with
think
another
I think Rosie O'Donnell did a piece of it.
person?
for a
And then
short time.
yeah,
She didn't.
She didn't do too
Everybody
well.
hated her.
It was good.
You mean by
Anyway.
investing in it? Investing in it, Don?
Until I
Oh,
found out that allegedly the mob was involved, and Alderman, what's his name on the south side? He was still an alderman. What's his? Did I
Burke?
Beaver? Burke? Oh,
Burke,
My alderman.
Is he? Your alderman?
Now he wasn't. He is
Well,
now.
he kind of told him about, and he backed off. There was money exchange and everything.
Well, that was
It would've
also.
been embarrassing for the old man.
oh.
I think that.
Among other things, huh?
Yeah, right.
I think that Armory was also a morgue for the ship that went down,
Eastland?
Eastland.
Eastland.
I think that's what it was.
What about a?
Well, they had a whole bunch of people, and they just had to put them somewhere. And I think the Armory at that time was used as a temporary morgue.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
You mean the one on Kedzie?
No, the one
Kedzie,
on
no?
It's Harpo Studios now.
Harpo
Oh, I thought you
Studios,
said
yeah.
Armory. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
George Hallis was late for that excursion or something.
Yeah, there's a
But
few
you know
people.
what? I think the armory that they used was the one on Chicago Avenue.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it was
you know,
that
I-
one, and it was made into a polo club later on.
Well, the
Until Jane Burns stored all the snow equipment there.
that Eastland was a bad luck ship from the beginning because it was cited by the Coast Guard as being unsafe because of different things, and they put a concrete deck on it
Oh,
with lifeboats, so it got to be real top heavy. And when the people were on it, it had no real ballast in there, and so when the people went to the shore side, it teetered.
the weight
Yeah.
didn't have a balance, yeah.
I found out here a short time ago that a good friend of mine, you know him, Jack, Jimmy Cosgrove, who was president of the Sergeants Union for a while, but his grandfather and my grandfather, he was a copper. Jimmy's grandfather, mine was a fireman. Both worked on the that Eastland, and Jimmy's grandfather got some kind of an award. Jimmy has got it, and he just donated it to the Fire Museum, which, by the way, we will have an open house on the 25th of January from 10 to 2, and that's at 5218 Southwestern.
What's funny about the Eastland, though, they cut open the hull, and the owners were protesting, cutting open the hull.
No, it was the,
Yeah,
it was
the
the
captain,
it was
I
the captain
think,
of the
at the
ship.
time of
the
the,
captain of the ship who got out, rather like the fellow in with the liner that crashed in the Italian islands. He got out, and he was standing on the hull, on the overturned hull, chasing those coming to the rescue who wanted to cut into the hull to get into the track. He was chasing them away because he didn't want them making a hole in his boat.
Well, they righted the
Until the
boat.
police finally, I think, just dragged him out of the way and
Well, they
began
righted.
cutting in.
They did right the boat, and they used it in the Second World War.
Yeah.
Before they
Yeah.
finally condemned it.
Yeah.
Dumped it.
training ship
Yeah,
in
you
the
know,
lake.
and you look at it, poor ship and badly constructed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and it lasted until the end of the Second World War.
And what company did all those workers?
Western Electric.
Western
Cicero,
Electric.
Cicero had
Yeah.
many people from Cicero
Whole families
died.
were wiped
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Horrible tragedy.
Wow, what a
They
story.
had multiple funerals in my church. I've seen pictures of 4 or 5 or 6 caskets simultaneously because there were just so many dead that they had to bury them in groups, families.
Can anyone think of what local stories might make a good subject for a film or anything here? Even any nominations?
I'm surprised they've never done a movie about the first Mayor Daley. I mean, that would be a fascinating character.
Well, they will,
to
I'm
do
sure.
a film
Yeah.
biography of it.
Mayor,
He
who
would-
can play him?
I think Jack Ryan would be.
do we have an Emmy
Sign a
nominee?
petition.
Oscar
Can you,
Award winner?
can you speak Bridgeportese?
Yeah.
Sometime in
No,
trusts and in wills, they have written no exclamation. Is that it or whatever of your
Expletives.
of us until 50 years?
Oh, yeah,
100
yeah.
years
I
after
don't
we
know.
died.
I don't know if they can hold that.
Well, my
a
point
public-
is
a
maybe
public
they
figure
have a
is-
clause that
Yeah, well, the
is
public
stopping
figure
that.
Public
fair
figure
game.
is you can't
You
prevent-
can't
no,
do that.
no. If you're,
No,
if you're a,
it's fair-
a
it's your
political
fair game.
office holder,
How about
Okay.
fair
With
game.
papers and so
Yeah.
forth because they just opened up the Kennedy.
Kelly,
Yeah, I'm
up
just
in there.
saying
you can
there
lock
are
away your own
ways
personal
of
papers,
stopping
but,
that.
we've done
can't
the
prevent
Chicago
anyone.
fire, right? We've done the Chicago fire probably many
Yeah,
times.
a
In
couple
old
of
Chicago.
times.
What about the Haymarket riot?
That's just a relatively short period of time, but yeah.
No,
The struggle for the 8-hour day labor history.
Yeah, I'm saying-
it would be a good.
Yeah,
think it's
That
a
would
broader
be a
topic, yeah.
wonderful movie
Yeah, it'd be great
to know the
for-
real story. Yeah.
However, I don't know if it go beyond Chicago. One of those type of things.
I'd
but-
like to do one on the 1980 strike. I'd love to do that.
How about 1871
what's that?
Chicago fire?
We just said we've done a couple of them.
Donna
Old
Beachy.
Chicago.
Oh, the
we
other
had
one,
that in old
1893 would be the World's Fair with
Columbian Exposition.
Yeah, that'd be
That's
a
going
great-
on right now.
Columbus wasn't even there.
Daniel Burnham in there.
He didn't
got-
show
they
up.
got-
They booked him, but he had other engagements. I think. He was opening a
No, I'm
supermarket.
serious.
in,
though.
We have a statue of Columbus that was at the Columbian Exposition.
Nobody knew what he looked
We
like.
have it
though.
at the museum, and I don't think that this was a very good portrayal of him, but we have it there, and the museum asked us to, let them use it for this display that they've got out, and our people said no, they don't want it to move.
Which
away
museum?
From our museum.
There was never a
The
real.
field. They have a big exposition on it.
There's no real likeness of Columbus anywhere.
yeah, no one
Nobody
knows
has any
precisely.
idea what he
Truly
looks
know what
like.
he looked
Yeah.
like.
It's
huh?
like
photos.
Talking about
Just
statues.
like, just like Jesus Christ, everybody portrays him as this, that, the other.
all the portraits of Columbus were made years later after he had died when they tried
well,
to
it's just
visualize what they thought he looked
Da
like.
Vinci's Last Supper.
He didn't do it. Yeah, he wasn't there. He wasn't sketching at the.
Do you know what?
He wasn't in the corner.
I don't think Mr. Polaroid was born yet.
But statues in Chicago, here's a question that no one can answer. Why is there a statue of Grant in Lincoln Park and a statue of Lincoln in Grant Park?
Makes sense.
No one knows.
They were good friends.
Yeah.
What's Jesus saying in that picture of the Last Supper?
We're not fussy, huh?
No, he's saying, everybody get over on this side of the table for a picture. But anyway, that's one of my usual Easter jokes or something. But,
Yeah.
Once again, Jack Ryan, once again, for those of you keeping score at home.
but
Keep those cards and letters coming in, folks.
okay, now Bill, you just said the Fire Museum is open house on the 25th.
The 25th of January.
What day
yes.
is that?
That's a Saturday.
Oh, it is Saturday. Is it Saturday?
Yeah.
Today's the 20th, right?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah, I guess it would
It's
be.
open
wouldn't
the 25th
No,
from
there's
10 to
a-
2.
I thought you had the wrong date.
There's also a book presentation of Camp Douglas at the Austin Irving Library at 1 o'clock. But no, it'd be too late for anybody that really cares.
Oh, yeah. Late.
Camp Douglas.
What's his name wrote a book? I hate the guy personally, but Bill Ayers. You know who he is?
Yeah.
Killer?
Our president's
Terrorist.
Communist,
Our
yeah.
president's friend.
Yeah.
And how to succeed. I mean, the whole him and his wife Bernadette Dorn. I mean, and their professors and. I mean, and they blew police stations up and federal. How does that work? Is this justice or what?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
he wrote a book. It's in Barnes and
Well, this is like latest Mayor Daley's a consultant on management at USC and
Where?
make your
USC.
U of C.
Oh,
U of
UFC.
C.
Yeah, I was born there.
But you know, if you want to learn how to screw up things, like sell out all the parking spaces.
Yeah, what was
I
it?
think that'd be a
Nothing
good idea,
important.
Don, to make a movie of that.
I mean, he's friends with certain people, and
Yeah.
you know, the whole thing is a joy. If you really get into it, and it goes back to in the '60s and real
SDS and all
terrorists.
of them, yeah.
It was all the police. It was a police riot. Didn't you read that? It
Police riot.
was a police riot.
Yeah,
What's his
I
name?
know. I was
Governor
there.
Kerner.
That was Walker.
Governor Walker.
Yeah, Walker.
Later became governor.
The Walker report.
Then went to
Walker.
jail.
You
My
know,
bad.
the old saying about Chicago: 4 years in office, 4 years in jail. Yeah.
He only did year and a half or
Is
so.
that what it was? You got to have a
You
joke
go
over
to
in there
governor's
somewhere.
jail, right?
Of course, this was after he was governor's.
Yeah, right.
He walked the
Realize you're
state. He was
from
a
that
big thing
state.
about
He's
walking.
living
Well, that's
in
what
Mexico.
people talk
On the
about
beach.
how stupid voters can be in the state of Illinois,
Yeah.
and
You won't
The-
give
the
much.
pri-
I don't think you get a great deal of argument.
Right,
On
well,
that
the-
It'd
the
be hard
prime-
to find the
well, the
opposing
prime-
point of view on that.
well, the prime example, if anyone doubts that, is that not the fact that we elected Rod Blagojevich, we elected him twice. not just once. We elected him
Yeah.
twice.
Well, the public loves a good BS artist, and the more BS, the more
He's
you
for
love
the
him.
little guy. How many times did you hear that one? He's for the little guy, remember?
Yeah, well, he happens to be the little guy, though.
Listen, lay off my neighbor.
He's,
Yeah, that's right.
he's appealing
That's
now,
like,
isn't he, for his sentence?
Yeah, I
mean,
think it got turned down, but they said his hair's turned gray, so
oh,
They,
no, he wouldn't want to
Is Patty
see him.
still living in the Blagojevich house, or
I
has that
don't
been
know.
sold? I wonder what's
Yeah.
going on there.
She's still there?
Yeah,
There's-
she is.
there's two guys waiting to get into the. They're walking into the lunchroom at the prison one afternoon, and one guy says to the other, "Boy, this service is getting worse around here. It's terrible. Can't get moving at all." He says to him, "Yeah, it was much better when you were governor." I'll be right back.
Now he's leaving, Tom.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
He doesn't like the applause.
Well, did what's his name get knocked off the ballot? The guy that went to jail and
yeah,
One of them did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of them did.
Yeah, but
Medrano?
Ike is still on.
I mean, only in Chicago can you go to jail for public corruption.
Yeah, right.
And then, you know what? I think I'll run for office again. Why not? These idiots elected me before. I might as well take another shot at
That's
it.
the Chicago way.
How many times has that happened though?
Too many times.
Recently, yes.
Well,
too
well,
many
well,
times.
plus, like I said, when Jesse Jr. was at trial and they were trying to, they were. I guess one of their defenses was he had some type of mental problem.
Bipolar.
If I was his defense attorney, all I would say to the judge or the jury is, ladies and gentlemen, this is a black man from the south south side of Chicago that use campaign funds to buy a stuffed moose head.
Yeah. And a fake guitar.
I rest my case.
You know what? What you were saying. You know, Mel Brooks expressed exactly what you're saying about the voters in Blazing Saddles when they come into the town with all the cardboard cutouts of people, and they come up and say, "Governor, these people in this town are all dummies." And he says, "Dummies? Of course they're dummies. They voted for me, didn't they?"
Right.
You know, speaking of Mel Brooks, I just got the video the other day of the History of the World, Part 1.
Yeah.
One of the funniest movies around. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was good.
That is a good movie.
Bill?
History of the World,
okay.
Part 1.
But I've always thought that Mel Brooks is a brilliant guy. He doesn't need all of the crude, vulgar, off-color stuff. To me, that just mars. I think he is so sharp, and his humor is so good. But I think he just, and I know that's part of his.
But he
shtick,
doesn't really have.
But
Double X-rated stuff.
His films would have been a lot fun. I'm talking about the crude, the really, the crudity in his
I
films.
like the one scene where he goes, "I have here these 15 commandments, these
10
commandments."
for all to listen to.
Okay, gang, we have to wrap it up. One moment, please. I want to thank everyone for being here today. Tom McKenna, Al Opitz, Don Sherian, our announcer, Rich Lang,
Harry
John
Callahan.
Koshelko, Jeanette
Frontier.
Frontier, Bill Kugelman, and myself.
Kate,
and
too.
we hope you had as good a time as we did. And remember, folks, history is much more than a book you keep on the shelf.
Oh, yes.
Kevin, I
we
must
had
forget. I'm
Kevin.
sorry. The boss is here from the big station.
We want to thank Kevin of Jack FM 89.7, station WRHS Norwich, for broadcasting this program over the Ridgewood High School Radio Network.
I'm sure it's not Jack of Kevin.
Listeners can access our recorded program and a large number of other shows on the internet at windycityhometown.com. Thank you for listening. This is your announcer, Rich Lang. Goodbye.
You have been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and 89.7 WRHS FM in Norwich. On Monday, January the 20th, the year 2018. This broadcast was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVito, edited by Stephen Lehman, and our audio engineer is James Rohde, and our webmaster, Mr. John Shikanda. This program was pre-recorded on Monday, January the 20th, the year 2014. Be safe, and thanks for listening.